This silver-haired dude in some seriously epic armor is lounging on a throne and just stone cold says, "Effective immediately, you're kicked out of my clan." On his knees on some fancy red carpet, our black-haired MC looks up, completely blindsided as his world just implodes. He's so shook he can barely choke out, "Kicked out? But why, Adele?" Adele just blows a gasket, blaming our guy for their botched dungeon raid, screaming about him failing to scout for mobs and blowing a super expensive warp spell without the go-ahead. Adele calls him a trash-tier buffer, but our boy claps back, hit with a flashback of him using his enhanced smell skill to track the mobs perfectly. A sharp crack echoes through the hall as the black-haired kid gets decked, his face twisting in pain. Adele just points a finger right at him, all accusatory, screaming that he needs to stop blaming everyone else for his own epic fails. Our guy squares up, reminding Adele what a total F-rank scrub he used to be, but Adele just threatens to end him, calling him an ungrateful punk. A red-haired woman with a worried look steps in, telling Adele to just chill. This woman, Marina, says throwing a fit in the middle of the guild hall is a bad look, as our boy watches her from the floor, and Adele just scoffs. Then Adele brutally shoves the kid back down, calling him trash. As the party's mage, Marina flashes this wicked smirk and asks our guy to explain his recon technique again. After he nervously says he used enhanced smell, Marina's expression goes ice cold as she calls him a fraud, saying that's impossible for a basic tier spell. Our guy frantically tries to explain that his magic is a whole different system, but Marina just cuts him off, telling him to stop making up BS. He desperately argues that his enchantment magic is a unique skill, that it's supposed to boost physical stats by a factor of 20. Marina starts bragging about how their party, the Supernovas, got famous for clearing a B-rank dungeon while they were still total newbies. Now she's all snuggled up next to Adele, declaring they don't need any dead weight, while our guy on the floor insists they'd be totally screwed without his buffs. Our boy, Caroso, just watches in horror as some stoic blonde dude announces they've already found a replacement. The blonde guy then calls for the new party member to enter. While Caroso is still reeling on the floor, this pink-haired girl in pristine white robes walks in, holding a staff and flashing a B-rank adventurer's insignia. The new girl gives this warm smile, saying she's so hyped to join the famous Espetada party. Adele just looks down at the crushed Caroso with a smug little smirk. Yanking Caroso up by the hair, Adele taunts him, calling him Desmond, and sneering that his replacement is an actual B-ranker. Adele leans in close, gloating that the new girl wields high-tier magic and has a mana signature on a whole different level from a D-rank scrub like Caroso. A cruel laugh escapes him as he keeps mocking him, saying he can't really complain now that a higher-ranked player has shown up. Marina laughs maliciously, telling Caroso he's fired, while the new girl lets out a self-satisfied little giggle. The blonde dude calls Caroso garbage, accusing him of just leeching off the party and declaring his free ride is over. With a bruised cheek and a 1,000-yard stare, Caroso just quietly accepts his fate and turns to leave. As he walks away, the party just laughs and jeers, yelling at him to get lost and leave his gear behind. As he leaves the guild hall, Caroso thinks to himself that there's no way his old party could clear a B-rank dungeon on their own, not even with some high-tier mage. He bitterly recalls a happier time when they were just newbies, and they all promised to grind and get stronger together. Completely heartbroken, Caroso thinks about their betrayal, muttering, "And here I thought we were an actual party." The scene cuts to a wide shot of a walled city across a massive green field. Sitting alone on a rock outside the gates, Caroso wonders what the hell he's gonna do now, knowing he can't survive out here as a solo player. He's totally despairing, feeling like he just can't stomach trying to find another party after that betrayal. Damn it! Caroso screams in frustration, totally spooking another adventurer who was just passing by. Then, out of nowhere, a massive B-rank monster spawns, terrifying a nearby D-rank adventurer and his party member, who starts panicking because there's no way their low-level asses can handle a monster like that. Whoosh! The party's enchanter quickly casts a strength buff on her friend, but the beast just casually swats him aside like he's nothing. No! The monster's massive, fanged jaws close in on the two helpless adventurers as it lunges, and the two adventurers scream, bracing for the inevitable. But then a brilliant green aura erupts as the guy somehow manages to parry the monster's attack with his shield. The newly buffed adventurer lets out a roar, shoving the beast back with some insane new strength. He and his partner are completely floored by his sudden and massive power-up. The beast gets blasted backward as the newly buffed adventurer strikes a defensive pose in front of the terrified girl. With a brutal arc of his greatsword, the adventurer carves into the beast, drawing blood thanks to his amped-up strength. From a safe distance, Caroso watches the whole scene unfold. He reveals his enchantment isn't some lame plus 20 stat boost. Caroso clarifies his real power. It's a 20 times multiplier, not some basic addition. The two adventurers are totally shook, completely mind-blown that a D-rank nobody like him could body a B-rank monster. As Kuroso dips out of there, he thinks about how he tried to explain his OP skill to his old party, but they just ghosted him. While trekking through the forest, a mysterious, glowing woman in flawless white plate armor materializes behind him. Glancing over a document, the black-haired kid sighs, realizing he needs to join a new clan if he wants to do any dungeon diving. The scene cuts to a lush, green valley, revealing some ancient, crumbling ruins in the middle of the landscape. Hidden within these ruins are tons of resources, forbidden ancient knowledge, and epic loot left behind by a forgotten civilization. By raiding these ruins, humanity levels up, figuring out how the whole system works. The kid, pulling up his status window, gets bummed out by his 0 intelligence stat, stressing that no one will want to party up with him because of his weird class and pathetic strength. He's salty that his intelligence, which is stuck at a big fat 0, hasn't gone up a single point, locking him into using only the most basic, garbage-tier enchantment magic. He figures his trash-level stats must be a debuff from his multiplier skill, but he flinches when a fully armored boot suddenly lands right next to him. The kid turns to the woman in plate mail and admits, looking defeated, that he got kicked from his last party. The woman is floored to hear he got booted, saying his old party is full of noobs who can't recognize real talent when they see it. The guy recognizes her. It's Cynthia, who smiles and says it's been a while, calling him Desmond. Desmond is completely stunned, hit with a wave of nostalgia, as he realizes it's been 3 whole years since they left their hometown. He spots a tag on her armor and asks, totally freaking out, if that's an S-rank adventurer's plate. Cynthia admits she's not a fan of flexing it, but Desmond insists she should be proud, saying S-rankers are basically living legends. Blushing, Cynthia says it means a lot coming from him, which makes Desmond turn beet red, too. Desmond thinks to himself that Cynthia has had a major glow-up, and realizes she's already 17. He remembers a promise they made, but then things get super awkward, thinking she's probably forgotten all about it. Leaning against a battlement, Desmond mentions he's heard about some new rookie party that's already clearing B-rank dungeons. Cynthia instantly figures out that was only possible because Desmond was in that party. Desmond is totally busted. So Cynthia explains that his enchantment skills have always been OP, and that's why his old party, Espada, was crushing it, leaving him speechless that she knew about his multiplier magic. Psyched that she recognized his true potential, Desmond listens as Cynthia says that now that he's a free agent, things can really start popping off. Cynthia, totally hyped, asks Desmond, calling him Des, how he'd feel about joining her clan. A stunned Desmond finds out from a blushing Cynthia that the clan's entrance exam is literally tomorrow. Leaning in, Cynthia tells him with absolute confidence that he'll ace it, and eagerly asks for his answer. To Desmond, it's an insane offer, but he's low-key doubting he can make the cut as a D rank. But the idea of joining the clan of the person he's always admired totally fires up his determination. He agrees to give it a shot, even if he's not sure he'll pass, which makes Cynthia literally squeal with joy. Absolutely ecstatic, Cynthia declares they have to go sign up right now. Even though he feels 0% mentally prepared, Desmond loves seeing her this hyped. Cynthia apologizes. Realizing she completely spaced on telling him her clan's name, she reveals it's the legendary Chevalier Garden, leaving Desmond completely speechless and in shock as they arrive at a massive, intimidating building. The narrator reveals this is the HQ for the biggest and most powerful clan in all of Briss. The Chevalier Garden is known as the ultimate elite force, the ones closest to getting the first clear on any undiscovered S-rank dungeon. Totally overwhelmed, Desmond starts to panic and stammers that he's changed his mind. Getting super close, Cynthia whispers for them to keep the promise they made as kids, making Desmond blush like crazy. A flashback reveals their childhood promise, to conquer an S-rank dungeon together, and it hits Desmond that she remembered it all this time. Despite the shared memory, Desmond is still thinking there's no way he can pull this off as Cynthia drags him toward the giant building. The scene cuts to the day of the exam at the Grand Clan's HQ. In a hall totally packed with examinees, Desmond's mind is blown by how many people have his same exam number, 55. And right on cue, they announce the trial. In parties of 4, the aspirants have to clear out 10 goblins in a D-rank dungeon to pass. Desmond thinks the quest is total noob tier, and starts scanning the crowd, looking to see if he can spot Cynthia anywhere. Bam! He jumps when 2 other examinees greet him from behind with some seriously extra energy. Up above, some chick with glasses announces a message of support from Cynthia McDonald, the commander of the 1st Brigade. The rest of the examinees absolutely lose their minds, hyped to see the legendary Cynthia for the first time, while Desmond is just completely floored by the news. The reveal is a total bombshell that shuts everyone up. Cynthia McDonald is the commander of the 1st Brigade. A system chart pops up, showing the structure of the Chevalier Garden. The 1st Brigade, the elite squad, is the most S-tier party of 5, and it's led by Cynthia. When Cynthia steps out onto the balcony, Desmond just stares up, his mind totally blown. She gazes down at the examinees with this stern aura and a presence that's seriously intimidating. The crowd, including a completely starstruck Desmond, starts murmuring about how drop-dead gorgeous their commander is. Cynthia then welcomes all the new recruits, telling them to unleash their full potential and complete the exam without holding anything back. Her speech totally hypes up the crowd, which erupts in cheers, but Desmond is still frozen solid, his eyes bugging out. The examinees are all buzzing around the grand hall, totally jacked on adrenaline for the trial ahead. As Desmond admires Cynthia from a distance, Desmond decides that if he passes this, he's joining the 1st Brigade. Suddenly, a woman in a white hood gives Desmond a warm smile and starts thanking him. Huh? Right in the middle of the packed hall, Desmond staggers back, yelling Cynthia's name, as the hooded figure on the floor mutters something about her voice. The whole sea of examinees, including that blonde dude from Desmond's old party, just stares in stunned silence. People start whispering, recognizing the amazing Cynthia, and Desmond is like, wait, how do they know each other? Cynthia apologizes to Des, admitting she just couldn't stay away. She leans in close, like she's about to kiss him. Cynthia wishes Desmond good luck and promises she'll be rooting for him from the shadows, leaving him blushing and totally speechless. As Cynthia walks away, Desmond wonders if she really came all this way just for him. Feeling a massive luck buff as his old party glares from the crowd, Desmond, now with a new resolve, declares he's gonna ace this exam and join the same guild as Cynthia. Suddenly, a blonde girl in a red scarf stops him in his tracks, shouting to get his attention, and Desmond nearly jumps out of his skin. The girl, super hyped, confirms that Desmond is number 55, and blurts out that she and her friend are too. As it dawns on him that they're his exam party, Desmond watches the energetic blonde introduce herself as Ren, a swordsman class, and a shy-looking mage with glasses confirms she's on the team too. The mage introduces herself as Dorothy, flashing her badge with the number 55, and Desmond notices her quiet voice. As the party forms up, a red-headed dwarf named Garand introduces himself as their tank, also rocking number 55, and a slightly flustered Desmond introduces himself too. Ren gives Desmond a cheerful greeting, and he tells her to just call him Des. And so, as this ragtag party starts to get acquainted, an examiner orders party number 55 to enter the skull-shaped dungeon and eliminate 10 goblins to pass. Ren lets out an energetic, "All right, let's go," prompting the examiner to comment on her spirit while Desmond tries to get her to chill. The examiner then reveals to a stunned Desmond that their party, number 55, is considered the absolute worst rookie party in the Academy's history. Staring at the ominous-looking dungeon, Desmond's spirit just plummets, wondering if he's cursed when it comes to party composition. Once inside the dungeon, Desmond confidently rallies his new squad, assuring them they'll all pass as long as they trust his lead. He then turns to a nervous Dorothy and tells her to prep her spell. Dorothy hesitates, explaining she's only got enough mana for one shot, and if she uses it now, she'll fail the test for sure. But then she remembers the look of confidence on Desmond's face and his plea to just trust him, and Dorothy steals her resolve. With Dorothy ready, Desmond signals the party as she begins to channel her mana. Desmond orders Ren to handle the aggro from the approaching goblins, and she's totally shocked, realizing he wants her to take them all on by herself. Ren and Desmond lock eyes with absolute determination. "All right, leave it to me," Ren shouts, fearlessly charging the goblin mob with her sword raised, vowing that none of them will get past her. Ren flashes a cocky grin as she viciously cleaves through a goblin. With one powerful swing of her greatsword, she wipes out an entire wave of them without even breaking a sweat. Ren stares at the carnage, completely in disbelief, totally freaking out over his own insane power. He realizes it's Desmond's buff when a system window reveals he's been hit with Strength Enhancement, level 1. As more goblins spawn, Desmond orders Garand to tank for Dorothy, hitting him with a Vitality Enhancement, level 1 buff. "You got it," Garand roars, readying his glowing green shield as the goblin mob charges. "Eat this." Garand completely stonewalls the goblin attacks, shielding a freaked-out Dorothy. With her resolve maxed out, Dorothy starts channeling some serious blue mana through her staff. Desmond asks Dorothy if she sees the passage on the right as she's gathering her mana. Thrown by the question, Dorothy asks him what he means by buffing. Desmond zaps Dorothy with Mental Fortitude Enhancement and Intelligence Enhancement. A system window shows Dorothy's water magic has leveled up, and she's totally floored by the insane power now pulsing from her staff. Whoa, no! Overwhelmed by the overflowing mana, Dorothy starts to panic. begging Desmond to stop as she loses control of the massive incantation. Flushed and breathless, Dorothy admits the power-up is insane, but she feels like her mana circuits are about to overload. Desmond leans in and whispers it's all good, telling her to just trust him. A super nervous, wide-eyed Dorothy stares back, her face a mix of pure terror and awe. Dorothy then unleashes a colossal, water bullet, level 3. Holding up a dizzy Dorothy, Desmond notes they've taken out 7 goblins and need 10 to clear the quest. A dungeon map reveals Desmond's strategy. He used his enhanced olfaction skill to pinpoint more goblins in the next chamber. By buffing the spell's area of effect and its raw power, his goal is to completely ace this exam. Just as one goblin looks up at the incoming attack, the buffed-up water bullet rips through the cavern, wiping out the distant mobs in one massive explosion. Desmond confirms the kills as the light from the blast fades. Satisfied with the result, he sweat drops, thinking he might have overbuffed Dorothy just a tad as the magic detonates. The scene cuts to a peaceful forest view outside the dungeon. Desmond's sitting there awkwardly with his party, while a guilty-looking Garand apologizes for going a bit overboard, holding a massive chunk of the dungeon ceiling he accidentally broke. Overwhelmed by his new, super-hyped party, a stressed-out Desmond wonders if this is all gonna work out. While a chibi Desmond freaks out about getting disqualified for wrecking the dungeon, the proctor calmly tells him it's no big deal. The proctor cheerfully announces their whole party passed, leaving everyone completely shook. Desmond realizes he totally spaced on the stunned proctors, who are muttering that Party 55 had the fastest clear time. Handing Desmond a pass, the examiner marvels at the D-ranker's power, admitting it's kinda shaken his own confidence as a B-rank enchanter. Ha ha, Desmond laughs triumphantly, holding up his pass, which is classified as sulfur monosulfide. Totally stoked that his party cleared the entrance exam. The narration explains, the Dread Skull dungeon was once a B-rank dungeon, but it was fully cleared after its dungeon core was destroyed. Now it's just a D-rank dungeon full of low-level mobs. It reminds Desmond of his time with Adel's party, where he always got the short end of the loot drops. As Ren and Garand celebrate, Desmond remembers what the proctor said and wonders why they were called the worst party in history. Arg! Just as he's thinking his new party members are a bunch of weirdos, Ren glomps him from behind, yelling excitedly, Dezun! Tackling him to the ground, a cheerful Ren asks why he looks so spaced out and if he's hungry. To cheer him up, Ren offers a totally bewildered Desmond her snack as a special treat. Ren proudly declares her special gift is to die for. As Desmond's sweat drops, thinking he hasn't even tasted it yet, a painful memory of his old party bubbles to the surface, ordering him around to fetch water and health potions, calling him useless. He just stares at the snack, remembering how his last party never even gave him a break to eat properly. Dorothy shyly offers Desmond some water, while Garand holds out a healing potion, both of them looking concerned. Touched by their kindness, Desmond asks his new party members why they decided to take the Chevalier Gardens entrance exam. Ren puffs out her chest proudly, revealing she's the third daughter of some backwater noble family. She explains that even though she dreamed of being an adventurer, her parents just wanted to marry her off. To prove them all wrong, Ren vows to become the greatest adventurer in the entire world, and Desmond turns to ask Garand his reason for wanting to be a shield-bearer. Do I really need a reason to protect people? Garand strikes a pose straight out of a shonen manhwa, looking totally OP as he asks. Dorothy, blushing like a ripe tomato, explains that her adoptive parents are in the clan, and she needs to pass this exam to repay their kindness. Desmond tells her that's a seriously noble motivation, but Dorothy, totally spiraling, covers her face and mutters how a walking disaster like her should just poof out of existence, leaving Desmond completely floored. Secretly fired up by Cynthia, Desmond gives the party a hype speech, rallying them to go all out together, swearing they'll ace this exam and clear the quest. Dude, the intensity is off the charts. Garand points out a single speck of dust on Desmond's shoulder, and then collapses dramatically. The party is just frozen, totally baffled, as Garand lies motionless on the dungeon floor. Desmond absolutely loses it, laughing his head off. He tells Garand-san to quit the theatrics and get up, thinking it's just a seriously lame joke. The party's laughter quickly turns to pure panic when they realize Garand-san isn't faking it. Garand just laughs it off, but Ren totally chews the old man out, reminding him they're not exactly swimming in healing potions. Garand sheepishly apologizes. He admits he's trying to be careful, while a horrified Desmond realizes this must be a regular occurrence for them. Pulling up Ren's stats, Desmond's jaw drops when he sees her strength is only a 6. That's barely enough to take down a single goblin mob. Then he checks Garand-san's vitality and sees it's a pathetic 3, thinking a paper cut could probably send the old man to his respawn point. He's relieved to see Dorothy-san has a solid 10 in intelligence, which lets her use level-based attack magic. Desmond compliments Dorothy-san on her high magic potential, but she just shyly replies, "I'm gonna die." She explains it's because her mana pool is basically non-existent, and she can only cast one spell per day. A status window confirms Dorothy has only 8 mana points, and the horrifying truth hits Desmond like a truck. This is the most scuffed party in history. He breaks it down. A DPS who can't even solo a low-level mob. A tank that's a total glass cannon, and a mage who's a one-shot wonder. He's starting to panic. Desmond knows he has to drop some serious buffs on everyone, and fast, or they're gonna get wiped and fail the exam. Crap. Just then, Ren spots a horde of goblins. Realizing they're about to get totally wrecked, Desmond screams for everyone to hold formation while he preps his enhancement magic. But Ren, thinking the best defense is a good offense, just Leroy Jenkins it straight into the goblin mob, yelling, "This is gonna be rough." With her pitifully low strength stat, Ren's attack is an epic fail, and she gets knocked flat on her back. While she tries to play it off like, "I totally meant to do that." A frantic Desmond yells that she's fighting a weak D-rank mob, and he hasn't even cast his buffs yet. Just then, a goblin lunges for the distracted Desmond, and Garand screams at him to watch out. Thwump. In his haste to protect Desmond, Garand trips over his own feet and totally faceplants. With his party in complete shambles, Desmond grinds his teeth, knowing he's got to do something. From the floor, Garand gives a thumbs up, repeating his cheesy catchphrase about not needing a reason to save people. Clutching their last healing potion, Desmond reminds Garand-kun to be careful, and the old man just apologizes sheepishly. The panic is setting in. Desmond stares at their very last healing potion, realizing they're completely out and wondering what the heck they're supposed to do now. Sinking into despair, Desmond knows they're doomed without a healer, right as someone screams his name. Out of nowhere, Ren shoves a stunned Desmond to the ground, taking his place to face the goblin charge head-on. As the goblins cackle with glee, Desmond watches in horror, screaming Ren's name as she's completely surrounded. Oof. Desmond lays into a dazed Ren for her recklessness, reminding her that she's the damage dealer, not the tank. With a confident wink, Ren declares that she couldn't just stand by and watch her party members get wiped. Desmond worries that her noob-level defense could get her a permanent debuff, shattering her dream of becoming a master sword wielder. He passionately reminds Ren what her ultimate goal is, and she admits he's right, though she still looks conflicted. A panicked Dorothy cuts in, shouting that a mob of 7 goblins is aggroing on them. Stepping up to the front line, Garand raises his shield and roars for his comrades to fall back. "No, Garand-san," Desmond yells, warning him that another hit will be a one-shot KO since they're out of potions. Garand admits his stats are low, but says he doesn't mind getting knocked out if it's for the sake of his party. He smiles with noble determination. He declares that even his corpse can be a meat shield for the party. Dorothy nervously reminds them that she only has one spell left in her arsenal. She's worried that if she blows her one and only spell on these 7 goblins, she won't be able to take down the required 10 to pass the exam. Desmond kneels before her. He reminds her of the promise she made to her parents, and her grip tightens on her staff as she hesitates. With tears in her eyes, Dorothy declares that clearing the quest by abandoning her new party members would be absolutely meaningless. Ren's totally buggin' like, "Dude, why are you stressing so hard? We literally just formed this party for the exam. Does it even matter how long we've been grinding together as a party?" Ren asks, leaving Desmond totally floored by his conviction. So epic. And just as the goblin mob swarms them, Ren flashes this crazy hyped-up grin, yelling that the real party's finally getting started. Garand grits his teeth, planting his shield to tank the incoming goblin rush. Ren and Dorothy both yell, "Heads up, Gramps," as he braces for impact. Grr. Then, out of nowhere, a water-aspected mana shield erupts around Garand, effortlessly tanking the goblin assault and leaving the mobs completely stunned. Garand is totally floored, wondering if he just repelled the mobs with his own defense stat. But he instantly realizes there's a buff at play. The party turns to see Desmond channeling a greenish aura, and Garand asks if that OP-level power is his. Desmond just gives them a look with the kind of insane determination you only see on a shonen protag. Glowing with a ridiculous amount of mana, Desmond hypes up his party, telling them to just trust him and declaring they're all gonna clear this exam together. Guaranteed. The scene cuts to the massive Chevalier Garden Guild Hall. Inside, a super-friendly receptionist informs them they're now official members of the Chevalier Garden Guild and wishes them good luck on their quests. Desmond just stares at his new adventurer's license, completely mind-blown, as a curious Dorothy and a super-stoked Ren peek over his shoulders. "Let's go!" Ren is celebrating like crazy, totally hyped that they all cleared the exam together. He pulls a flustered Desmond into a massive bear hug, giving him all the credit for the carry. But a flashback hits, reminding Desmond of his bitter past as an outcast. The newly minted party finds themselves in the bustling main lobby. surrounded by other adventurers. As he scans the crowd, Desmond gets a bad vibe, like a hidden debuff in the air. Desmond, Ren, and Dorothy scan the guild hall, picking up on the seriously weird atmosphere. The gossip is flying around the hall as adventurers whisper about Party 55, freaking out over the broken support mage who could track and nuke entire mobs. Some are even calling him the second coming of the Demon King. A super proud Ren tells a mortified Desmond that he's the talk of the entire guild and to stop being so modest. Garand just nods with a dead serious look on his face, praising Desmond's totally busted magic, and confirming that they only succeeded because of his carry. Desmond just brushes it off, insisting he's just a support class and that they cleared it because their party synergy was on point. Ren gets completely swept up in the hype and suddenly proposes to him, leaving a dumbfounded Desmond to just yell, "But why?" Once he recovers from the shock, Desmond figures this is probably where their temporary party has to disband. Dorothy sadly confirms they were just a pickup group for the test, but she trails off. Ren, who can't hide how bummed he is, cuts in, pointing out that her guild card officially assigns her to party number 55. And that's when they all realize their cards say the exact same thing. The party celebrates in full-on chibi mode, freaking out that they're now an official squad. "Nice to officially meet you guys." Ren cheers loudly while a grateful Desmond assures a blushing Dorothy that her words were really sweet. Beaming, Ren enthusiastically suggests they go out and celebrate becoming an official party. He proposes grabbing some drinks, and while Desmond is thinking about a victory feast, Garand is instantly on board. As a hyped-up Ren drags the party off, Desmond hangs back for a second, thinking he wanted to tell Cynthia the news, but he can't. He sighs, realizing he doesn't even know where to find her anymore, and that they run in such different circles now that bumping into each other isn't really a thing anymore. The scene cuts to a bustling, medieval-style city, then focuses on the entrance to a lively tavern. Inside, the place is packed to the gills with adventurers eating, drinking, and chatting it up. All right then. A hand raises a frothy mug of ale, ready for a toast. Cheers. Ren proposes a toast to their new party's first successful quest, and the whole crew shouts in agreement, clinking their mugs together. Ren, Desmond, Garand, and a smiling Dorothy are all enjoying their drinks, happy to be celebrating together. Suddenly, a cloaked figure with white hair just appears at their table, leaving Desmond and Ren thinking, who's this? A confused Desmond tells the stranger that they're in the middle of a private celebration, while Ren politely points out that there are plenty of other open tables. Desmond narrows his eyes as it clicks, and he realizes who the cloaked figure might be, asking, "Cynthia?" A totally flustered Dorothy recognizes the legendary Cynthia Sama, but the cloaked girl denies it, throwing the whole table into chaos. Dorothy turns completely beet red, asking Desmond why he's addressing the illustrious Cynthia Sama so casually, and questioning what kind of connection they have. Cynthia just apologizes for the interruption, explaining that she's known Desmond since they were basically low-level newbies, and that she came to celebrate him clearing the advancement exam. A totally shook Dorothy realizes they're childhood friends and goes into full-on panic mode, telling Cynthia not to get the wrong idea about her earlier trash talk. Cynthia clarifies that Desmond passed with his own power, no nepotism involved, and Ren is like, "No cap, he's a natural." Ren, totally hyped, glomps a stunned Desmond, calling him Descune and proclaiming that they know his insane awakened talent better than any NPC. A blushing and shocked, Cynthia can't believe Ren has such a high familiarity stat with Desmond, while Dorothy explains that Cynthia Sama is their party leader, an incredibly high ranker, and a total legend. Man, this is getting messy. Dorothy tries to nerf the tension in the room, suggesting they drop the formalities, since they're all here for a victory feast. Cynthia flashes a little smirk at Ren, and asks with full intent if she can really say she knows Desmond best, just because they've partied up together. "That's not it at all," Ren claps back, declaring that since they've faced down death flags together, she understands his mana flow better than anyone. A savage rivalry quest just activated between Cynthia and Ren, leaving a terrified Desmond caught in the aggro zone. Garand announces that the food has arrived, but he shuts up fast when he senses the killing intent in the atmosphere, realizing this is not the right vibe for a celebration. A super awkward Desmond is sandwiched between Cynthia and Ren while both of them try to feed him. Cynthia and Ren start arguing about which dish is the better buff for Descune, one suggesting a light stamina potion, and the other something with more substance. Dorothy jumps in, calling them both out for griefing the guy with their weird rivalry. With a smile, Dorothy offers her own pro tip. When you're drained, the best recovery item is milk, a totally F-rank piece of advice. While Grand grinds on some pasta, an exhausted Desmond tries to say he can self-buff, but they completely ignore him. Ren and Cynthia lean in, demanding Descune make his dialogue choice carefully. Cynthia and Ren argue over who he should choose, his childhood friend or his party comrade. Blushing, Ren asks Desmond if he's going to eat her, leaving him totally bugged out and asking, "Renan, what?" Desmond has to remind a blushing Ren of the context and the food in her hand, trying to reboot the conversation back to normal. A flustered Cynthia reacts to Ren's high audacity stat, and Desmond sighs, exclaiming, "You're lagging too, Cynthia." Blushing, Cynthia wishes Desmond would use that kind of limit break on her, and then she slams the table, declaring, "This quest is going nowhere." Ren and Cynthia face off, deciding to settle right here and now who will be chosen by Des, while he just wants to farm some food. Distracted by the feast, the girls start digging in as Ren exclaims, "This dish has a serious fire debuff." And Cynthia declares, "And this one's an S-tier item." The victory celebration turns into a massive buffet raid as the party, with Ren as the raid leader, summons one plate after another. When Ren reaches for a dish, a giant tower of plates teeters like a collapsing dungeon, and Desmond screams at her to watch out. Cynthia and Ren lock eyes, wondering which of the two Desmond will use his bodyguard skill on to protect from the falling plates. Desmond uses Garan's head as a human shield artifact to block the plates, protecting them both. The two girls realize with horror that if those plates had actually hit Garand, his HP would have hit 0. Ren, in full-on comic mode, declares that Garand is the true final boss and shakes him, telling him to stop making Deskin call her that. With the rivalry debuff worn off, a cheerful Ren throws her arm over Cynthia's shoulders, calling her Kenyan-chan, and inviting her to a potion-chugging contest until they both pass out. Later that night, a very drunk and happy Ren is completely KO'd. As Garan carries the away from keyboard Ren, Dorothy remarks that it's been a chaotic but fun instance. Desmond walks beside Cynthia, thanking her for coming to celebrate with them. In the background, Ren happily murmurs that it's the first time she's ever celebrated with her comrades. Desmond smiles tenderly, telling Cynthia he's really happy and glad that she came. A blushing Cynthia agrees, saying she's glad she came and that they're in the same guild now. Haha, Desmond laughs, pointing out that their respective brigades, the 1st and the 5th, are actually on opposite sides of the academy map. Cynthia tells him with total confidence that he'll be in the 1st brigade before he even knows it. When Desmond says she's flattering him too much, a dead serious Cynthia insists she's not just trying to buff his ego. Cynthia smiles, adding that she's glad the members of his party seem to have good synergy. In the background, Dorothy keeps an eye on an unconscious Ren being hauled around by Grant. Cynthia mentions that her own party had some attitude problems with her because she was a high ranker, and a nervous Desmond promises he'll have a talk with Ren. Cynthia smiles, saying it was fun celebrating with everyone, but then gets a thoughtful look on her face, like she's calculating her next move. Desmond, totally buggin', asks what's up, but Cynthia just brushes it off like it's no big deal. Suited up in her battle gear, Cynthia grins under the moonlight, telling Desmond that starting tomorrow, she's got his back in the party. Blushing like crazy, Cynthia whispers his name. The next day, the scene shifts to a totally packed city street. The party pulls up to this massive building that's giving off major item shop or alchemy workshop vibes. Inside, someone's mind is blown by the insane stash of potions. A super hyped Dorothy shows Desmond the healing potions, antidotes, and paralysis elixirs. Desmond and Dorothy totally agree that for their first official quest, they need to be fully kitted out. Desmond asks Dorothy if they're supposed to split the cost for all these items, which kinda catches her off guard. Dorothy cheerfully explains that the guild covers all expenses as long as you have a receipt, leaving Desmond absolutely floored. Desmond starts thinking back to his days with the Spatata, where he had to pay for every single thing himself, and realizes just how stacked the perks are at Shieler's Garden. While they're browsing the shop, Desmond brings up his old party, the Spatata. He kinda zones out, wondering what his ex-party member, Adele, is up to. The scene cuts to another party at an excavation site in Bristol's northern district. Some blonde dude lets out a grunt as a whole horde of goblins roars and charges right at them. The party's swordsman, Adel, asks their tank what the heck is going on. Grah! A goblin lunges forward just as another party member lets out a scream, wondering why they're struggling so hard against some trash-tier goblins. Whoa! Adele barely reacts in time as another goblin swings its mace at him. Adele grinds his teeth, just barely managing to block the goblin's attack with his sword. Gah! A brutal hit sends Adele flying backwards. The party's red-headed mage screams his name. Adele! As the rest of the team just stands there, stunned. Ah! The red-headed mage watches in terror as the goblins start to swarm them. The party formation completely breaks down into chaos as the redhead starts chewing out the tank and demanding answers from their mage, who insists she's in the thick of it too. The tank snaps at the pink-haired mage for only casting magic once, but she just says she can't, all while a wounded Adele groans on the ground. Amidst the chaos, A desperate voice yells for everyone to bail using a teleport scroll. Pant. Pant. The party is totally wiped. Adele, the redhead, the tank, and the pink-haired mage catch their breath after that close call. Adele, totally livid, demands to know how they almost got wiped in a C-rank dungeon by goblins, the weakest mobs out there, especially when they used to clear B-rank dungeons with no sweat. The tank starts freaking out, thinking they accidentally stumbled into an S-rank dungeon, but the pink-haired mage shuts that down, saying maybe they're just having an off day. As the pink-haired mage asks if everyone's okay, Adele realizes the rumors about this party were complete garbage. Fuming, Adele gets right in the pink-haired mage's face, blaming her for the near wipe because her buffs are totally useless and telling her to do her freaking job. The pink-haired mage claps back hard, refusing to take the heat and saying it's their own incompetence. The blonde tank, Caroso, thinks to himself that there's no way Adele can hold the line against these mobs. The redhead, Marina, realizes their mage only cast a couple of low-tier spells the entire time. The pink-haired mage scoffs at the so-called spatata, calling them a bunch of F-rank scrubs and telling them not to blame her for their own uselessness. Adele grits his teeth, furious, demanding she repeat what she just said. He lunges forward and grabs her, threatening to wipe the floor with this arrogant newbie. Struggling to break free, the pink-haired mage tells him to back off. Ha! With a single flick of her wrist, she sends him flying backwards without even trying. Boom! Oof! Adele slams hard into a massive boulder, sending rubble flying everywhere. He's left on the ground, totally wrecked and groaning in pain. The pink-haired mage just smirks, playing all innocent. Ha ha ha! She laughs, mocking how pathetic Adele is, unable to even maintain his stance, while he just glares at her with pure hatred. Don't bother firing me. The pink-haired mage announces she's done carrying such a useless party and just dips, leaving them all behind. Adele slams his fist into the ground, frustrated, cursing his terrible luck with enchanters, thinking about this new one and his past with Desmond. Seething, Adele buries his face in his hands, thinking all enchanters are completely useless and a total pain. The scene then cuts to a massive, majestic castle under a brilliant blue sky. Desmond's eyes are practically glowing with main character energy as he daydreams about his first real quest. He's picturing the whole brigade ranking system, ready to grind his way up the ladder so he can one day join Cynthia in the legendary 1st Brigade. Back at the guild hall, Desmond and Ren hit up Dorothy for the morning briefing, and she's totally radiating positive vibes, declaring she's about to go all out. Desmond's already guessing what their first mission will be. Probably some F-rank grunt work they always dump on the 5th Brigade. But Dorothy's betting it's just a simple dungeon crawl. Ren, acting all OP, claims it'll be a total cakewalk and they'll clear it in no time. But Dorothy warns her not to sleep on their first official gig. Haha. Desmond just laughs, genuinely stoked to be dungeon diving with his new squad. The hype is real, and the excitement is building as the mission is about to kick off. But when they walk into the main hall, they hit a wall of adventurers, and the tension is so thick you could cut it with a mana blade, totally catching them off guard. Dorothy immediately picks up on the bad vibes in the guild, and Garen clocks that the other adventurers are whispering to each other. Ren, completely oblivious, just cheerfully assumes all the whispering is about their party's OP performance on the placement exam and starts bragging about her goblin kill count. However, the seriously stressed look on Desmond's face shows he's not buying that hype at all. Yeah, the vibe is way off. Desmond overhears a nearby adventurer complaining that his squad is getting looked down on. The crowd then just explodes with rage, accusing Desmond's party of cheating the system and having connections, yelling for that trash-tier party to get lost. Desmond quickly tries to de-escalate the situation, pleading that it's all a misunderstanding and they didn't pull any cheap moves. Suddenly, a booming voice from the balcony yells, "All right, that's enough," shutting the whole crowd down instantly. The salty adventurers all look up toward the source of that commanding voice. A guy on the balcony introduces himself as Brant, captain of the 5th Brigade, leaving Desmond and Dorothy completely shook. Desmond's just thinking, no way. Absolutely unable to process that this clown is his captain. Any shred of credibility he had vanishes when the captain, totally wasted, starts slurring his words, telling everyone to just call him Bruchon or whatever. Heh. While the vice captain is begging him to get his act together, Brant just drunkenly mumbles that he's getting an earful. Snapping out of his drunken stupor for a second, the captain announces their quest. Explore the Mesville Ice Cave. Huh? The crowd starts murmuring in shock, realizing the target is the Gem of Wisdom, a B-rank artifact. The captain claims it has a multiplication-type enhancement buff, but he still doubts they'll be able to pull it off. As a nervous Desmond wonders if this is for real, the captain just smirks and explains, "This is the Chevalier way, and you need to learn what it means to be part of the system. A confused Desmond tries to unpack the meaning behind the captain's cryptic words. The narrator chimes in, reflecting on the massive scale of the Chevalier, one of the most OP guilds in all of Bristol. The awful truth hits the crowd like a ton of bricks, as they realize the captain sees them as nothing more than disposable pawns. "You're just cannon fodder," the captain states coldly, confirming their worst fears and triggering the rage of one adventurer. As Desmond watches, completely stunned, he decides there's no way in hell he's dedicating his life to some corrupt, third-rate guild that just exploits its members. The adventurer's rage explodes, accusing the higher-ups of being arrogant tyrants, while Ren trembles from the super tense and messed-up vibe in the room. A diagram pops up showing the 6 parties involved, with Desmond's squad designated as number 55 among them. To prevent total chaos, the captain announces a leader will be assigned, and everyone has to follow their orders without question. Tesk, the adventurer, is fuming, pissed at being treated like a total noob. Meanwhile, all Desmond can think is, "Man, the aura in here is seriously toxic," and a nervous Desmond is thinking there's no way this plan is going to work, just praying he doesn't get picked as leader. But then his worst nightmare comes true when the captain names the leader. Desmond's party: Ren, Garand, and Dorothy. The drunk captain gives a sloppy wave, slurring, "So, nice to meet ya." Desmond just freezes up, a totally forced, panicked smile plastered on his face while everyone stares him down. Yikes. The scene cuts back to the massive guild hall as they prep to head out. Going over the quest details, Dorothy confirms for the party that the ice cave is, in fact, a high-difficulty, B-rank dungeon. "No way." Desmond exclaims as he and Dorothy are totally blown away by the sight of the ice dungeon stretching out endlessly around them. Inside a frost dungeon, a voice says, stunned by the ice-covered interior, while another points out it's a man-made dungeon created by the ancients. A blonde girl with fangs named Ren tells her squad to stay on high alert, but the jet-black-haired mage with the glasses is looking seriously sus. Ren, totally stoked, realizes she's not even cold despite the freezing mana in the air, and the dwarf in their party backs her up. Desmond proudly explains that he's cast a party-wide cold resistance buff on everyone. Ren is buggin', like, "No way, we're not gonna feel the cold at all?" And even the dark-haired mage looks impressed. She's impressed by Desmond's support magic, explaining it'll boost their mobility and help conserve stamina potions. Desmond just gives a thumbs up, assuring them that while the buff isn't permanent, it'll last more than long enough for their dungeon crawl. A super-hyped Ren latches onto Desmond's arm, jokingly calling him her personal human furnace and saying she wants one for her dorm. Desmond gets serious, reminding her this is a high-rank dungeon and they can't afford to lower their guard for a second. Wham! Without warning, someone lands a massive kick on Desmond from behind. As Desmond faceplants, a shocked Ren rushes to his side, screaming his name at the top of her lungs. Ren spins around, totally ticked off, at some huge dude with spiky hair, demanding to know what his problem is, but he just throws the question right back at her. The spiky-haired guy, Garand, furiously accuses them of fooling around instead of focusing on the raid. Frustratedly declaring that this isn't some academy field trip, Garand viciously scoffs at them, calling them a party of silver spoon nepo babies, and roars at them to get lost. An outraged Ren fires back that they didn't get here on connections, while Garand just keeps insisting that they're total P2W scrubs. As Desmond looks on, still hurting, Garand's party accuses them of pulling strings to get the party leader spot. Garand riles up the other adventurers, shouting that he can't trust his life to a bunch of F-rank deadweights and demanding the fake legacy party scram before they get everyone killed. Desmond tries to de-escalate with the hostile mob, but Ren, completely over it, complains about all the pointless drama. Then, with a sudden flash of determination, Ren declares they're about to show them their true power level. To Desmond's absolute shock and horror, Ren challenges the hostile party to a rank battle to prove their worth, making Desmond freak out as he realizes she is 100% serious. Garand angrily accepts her challenge, and his crew gives them death stares while Desmond basically shrinks into himself. As Desmond's small party braces themselves, a voice from their group tells them to give him hell. The massive mob charges, screaming to kick them out of the raid, while Desmond desperately begs them to stop, reminding them they're supposed to be allies. Ren just smirks, totally ready to throw down, much to Desmond's worried dismay. Suddenly, Desmond's eyes go wide with panic as he realizes a critical flaw in his enchantment. Crap. As one of the guys mocks Desmond for trying to tank for his teammates, another one clocks him right in the face, accusing him of being another rich kid who bought his way in. Desmond yells as he's sent flying, while his party members are seen effortlessly parrying the other attackers, who complain about how totally OP they are. Garand lunges, winding up to strike a defiant Ren. Ren counters his attack with a powerful, clean kick, straight to his jaw. Stunned, Garand silently clenches his fists, his face a mask of pure disbelief and rage. Garand grunts, frustrated that his signature move did 0 damage, while Ren stands before him with a status indicator showing she has 6 lives remaining. Ren coolly asks if he's the famous Iron Wall, and then shamelessly admits that she doesn't even run a defense build, leaving the other adventurers completely gobsmacked. Convinced they're just F-rankers who got in on their family name, the salty adventurers yell to dogpile them and surge forward. Several guys manage to grab Ren, who struggles against their hold with a grunt. The other adventurers swarm the rest of the party, grabbing the dark-haired mage and the dwarf. A dude with a red mohawk pins Desmond to the ground, deciding they're gonna physically throw them out, while Desmond desperately thinks that he has to activate his skill, now. The captured mage, seeing her friends in trouble, cries out in distress. With his entire party incapacitated, Desmond begs the aggressors to call off the attack. Their captors just mock them, refusing to show any mercy, but the dark-haired mage has a sudden realization, thinking that the floor has to be a trap skill. A few of the aggressors look up, sensing that something is off after all the commotion. Garand and his party look around, confused, wondering what the heck is going on. Crack! The icy ground suddenly shatters right under the larger party's feet. One of the men grunts as the floor gives way beneath them. Desmond's party remains perfectly safe on a stable platform as the other adventurers start to plummet. The aggressors scream in terror as they fall into the chasm, realizing way too late that the floor was a giant illusion. They're falling toward a deadly pit of razor-sharp ice spikes. A hidden trap triggers. The whole mega party is taking a nosedive straight toward a game over. Below them, a field of razor-sharp, gleaming ice spikes is waiting. With a sickening squelch, the entire squad gets kebabbed while a single survivor watches in horror, right before sharing their gnarly fate. Garand is bugging out at the massacre, realizing with pure dread that his entire party has been wiped. A hand, glowing with healing mana, reaches down into the field of deadly ice spikes. Desmond, Garand, and his party stare into the pit, totally freaking out, bathed in a green glow. The fallen adventurers realize they're still alive, sharing looks of disbelief and relief. Garand is floored, seeing he doesn't have a single scratch. In fact, the ice spike shattered on impact with him. The ones who were totally doomed are now having a full-on party among the broken spikes, shouting their heads off that they're all safe. Relieved, but still mega confused, Garand wonders how the hell they survived, while Desmond gives him a smug little "I got this" smirk. Garand's party stares from the pit's edge. Sprawled on the ice, totally mana drained but smirking, Desmond clutches his glowing staff, the source of that clutch barrier magic. Peeking up from the death trap pit, Garand and his party are just staring, completely shook, at their saviors. Desmond explains he cast a body reinforcement buff on everyone just in the nick of time, but he's like, "Yo, this buff has a time limit." Garand, totally panicking, tells his crew they gotta find a way out, like, right now. As Desmond warns them about other potential mana traps, Garand screams for a rope to pull everyone out, and one of his guys is on it instantly. After climbing out of that spike-filled death pit, the whole raid party catches their breath on solid, frozen ground. Garand shouts out a head count, making sure everyone's in one piece, and Desmond's red-nosed buddy confirms the tactical retreat was a success. The entire party crowds around a kneeling Desmond as Ren and Mariel rush to his side, freaking out and asking if he's okay. Garand just watches, deep in thought, while it finally clicks for Jin that while they were wailing on him, Desmond was in the middle of casting a spell, and she just assumed it was for his own party. Jin flashes back to seeing Desmond getting pummeled while desperately trying to finish the incantation. Now she gets it, he was trying to protect the very guys who were attacking him. On his knees from total mana exhaustion, Desmond remembers his only thought was to shield everyone, even the ones trying to take him out. Garand and his goons just stare at him, their expressions shifting from aggression to guilt and a newfound respect. A flashback shows Desmond's earlier plea, asking if they weren't all supposed to be on the same team. Desmond apologizes for burning through so many of his items, but Ren tells him it's no big deal. Ren then bows, apologizing, totally blaming herself for not listening to Desmond, who's just floored by how genuine she is. Overwhelmed, Desmond suddenly gets showered with recovery potions from the sorry-looking adventurers, trying to make up for being such jerks. Desmond is just bug-eyed, staring at the mountain of recovery items, while Ren, with a totally straight face, shows him her now empty pockets. A super awkward Garand shuffles over to Desmond, clumsily apologizing for losing his cool earlier. He sticks out his hand. Garand admits Desmond's skills are legit, and asks if they can team up for real this time. Totally speechless, Desmond and his party just watch as little hearts literally float around the now humbled Garand. The same dudes who were just beating him up are now falling all over themselves, apologizing, affectionately calling him Des-kun, which makes Desmond totally blush. Now, a united front, the adventurers stand together, ready to continue their raid on the ice dungeon. Meanwhile, some mysterious purple-haired woman is scoping out the party from a distance, and mutters that they must be the famous top-ranked cadets, checking out the guys. The adventurers huddle up, one asking his leader for the next play, while another doubts they can even clear a B-rank dungeon. Desmond agrees, admitting under his breath that it's just now hitting him how seriously dangerous this dungeon is. He holds up one finger. Desmond lays out his plan. They're gonna ghost the mobs and the traps, which leaves Garand and his buddy completely clueless. Desmond reveals his master plan with a newfound swagger. They're going to destroy the dungeon core. He explains that taking out the core nerfs the entire dungeon and all its monsters, just like in his academy entrance exam. Garand gets that the main quest is to destroy the core, but a thought bubble shows he's worried about how long it'll take to even find the thing. Desmond explains that just searching for it is a waste of time, since they're basically in a race against other parties in this dungeon. Garand and his sidekick totally agree, realizing another team could snipe the core and snatch all the loot before they do. After thinking for a sec, Desmond makes a shocking call and announces they're splitting the party. Then Desmond lays out his strategy. His elite strike team will push for the dungeon core, while the rest of the party handles loot and covers R6. Revealing their target is the wisdom gem, Desmond locks in the strat. Garand's crew is on board, trusting he's got the whole raid on lock. Turning away, Desmond reminds himself that his power-multiplying enchantment buff will be more than enough juice. Desmond tells Garen he's convinced this party split was the clan leader's master plan from the start. A couple of Garen's dudes got super paranoid, freaking out that they're just disposable pawns, mob fodder to be replaced if they get wiped. Desmond gets thoughtful, hoping Cynthia's clan, the Chevalier Garden, isn't as hardcore as the rumors say. "Alright, let's go all out, people," Desmond yells, hyping up both squads for a successful clear. With their morale maxed out, the adventurers split up and dive into the dungeon's corridors. Desmond stops Ren in his tracks just in time, who was about to charge headfirst down a seriously sus route, pointing him toward a safer path. As his team advances, Desmond reminds them to stay sharp and keep an eye out for mobs and traps. Following his party, Desmond thinks to himself that, low-key, he's digging how this all turned out. The shorty of the group grins, saying he's glad they squashed the beef with the other adventurers and got rid of the bad blood. Desmond smiles fondly, remembering Garand's support. He recalls the initial beef with the other parties, who accused them of using cheap tricks to become the lead squad. He figures that after they actually hashed it out, he realized everyone was way cooler than they first seemed. Surrounded by his new party members, Desmond realizes that making allies actually makes him happy. But back to business, Desmond tells his team that for everyone's sake, their plan has to be flawless. A mana diagram illustrates the play. If they don't shatter the dungeon core, it's a total party wipe. He apologizes to his team for dragging them into such a high-risk quest, but asks them to have his back. Desmond speaks with a soul-deep determination, firing up his crew. Ren just cracks up laughing, and agrees to help without a second thought. While Dorothy gives him a supportive smile, Ren teases a blushing Desmond, telling him to say, "Let's do this together." With their party synergy off the charts, Desmond and Ren share a look of pure resolve, ready for whatever the dungeon throws at them. Suddenly, some girl with short, purple hair walks up and asks if her team can merge with theirs. A beet-red Desmond asks who they are. As the girl's spiky-haired companion watches the scene, the newcomers introduce themselves to Desmond's group as Squad Number 24. Desmond, totally clueless, asks what she means by merge, and she replies that it's exactly what it sounds like, duh. The purple-haired girl explains that going solo is a suicide run and it's way safer to party up. Bam! She grabs a blushing Desmond and yanks him into a hug, calling him Deskian and saying she's been scouting him. The guy from the other team tries to poach Desmond, causing Ren and his teammates to angrily shout at them not to steal their party member. The purple-haired girl, still clinging to a dizzy Desmond, says she gets it now he's their power source, even with such low-tier teammates. Ren snaps, totally indignant, as the girl pities Deskian for being stuck with a bunch of F-rank dead weight. The purple-haired girl suggests that if Desmond's team really cares about him, they should just let him transfer. As Dorothy and Garen watch in silence, a fist clenches in rage. Desmond addresses the girl, calling her Mary Ill, insisting her analysis of his party's stats is completely off. Ren, furious, tells Mariel to get off her high horse, possessively declaring that Desmond is hers. Psh! Mariel scoffs at Ren, claiming that even though they're the same rank, her power level is in a whole different league compared to Ren's trash-tier strength. While Ren is practically steaming, Desmond deadpans, asking her to clarify exactly what kind of trash she's referring to. Desmond explains to Mariel's partner that she's super stubborn, and you can't change her mind once she's locked onto something. The other adventurers are just stunned by Desmond's riz, much to his complete confusion. Mariel and Ren launch into a full-blown shouting match, trading insults about their charm and their character builds. Desmond just decides to tune it out, thinking that, in the end, forming a party isn't always a walk in the park. As the girls fight over him, Ren and Mariel corner Desmond, demanding he choose which party he's joining. Desmond looks nervously at Ren, caught right in the middle of their beef. Just as he tries to mediate, a powerful tremor shakes the entire ice cavern, cutting their argument short. Everyone looks around, alarmed. Rumble. Everyone wonders where that rumbling is coming from. Desmond spots something in the distance and yells at Ren, who's already taken off running, that it's a danger zone and to watch out. Just as Desmond is about to follow Ren, Mariel totally blocks his path. She grabs his arm, insisting he party up with her crew. She starts laying on the pressure, asking if he'd rather team up with a bunch of F-rank scrubs instead of some real carries. Desmond just glances at her and her party and, cool as a cucumber, hits her with a hard pass. He explains with a smirk that their so-called weakness is exactly what gives his squad its insane synergy. That's when it clicks for Desmond, a real system notification moment. He finally gets what the captain meant with his cynical talk about low-tier adventurers being nothing but disposable fodder. Someone yells that they've pulled aggro, and Desmond looks ahead, totally ticked off. Taking charge like a true party leader, Desmond declares that their two squads will run a joint raid on the dungeon's core. Both parties then push forward into the frost-forged corridors, following Desmond's new strat. And holy crap. As they enter a new zone, one of the adventurers realizes the temperature has totally tanked, so much that his mana potion starts to crackle. Crack. The potion vial flash freezes and explodes in his hand as the dude lets out a shriek of alarm. Ren yells for Desmond to come check out what she found up ahead. A gigantic, one-eyed golem made of crystalline ice phases out of the cavern wall. The adventurers are completely stunned, wondering what kind of raid-level monster they're up against. Mariel's teammate screams, in total disbelief, realizing they've stumbled into the final boss room. Grur, an ice wolf with crystalline spikes and azure fur, lets out a menacing growl at the final boss. The enormous, one-eyed ice golem just stares back, completely unfazed by its challenger. And with one brutal swipe, the golem one-shots the ice wolf, which gets deleted with a final howl. The adventurers, including a pale-faced Desmond and a worried Ren, just watch in dead silence at the absolute OP display of power. The group stares with a mix of terror and awe at the imposing wall of ice before them, muttering, "We are so boned." Garan yells that it's a world boss and they need to bounce, but Ren tells him to chill and look closer. Behind the colossal ice golem, a pillar of brilliant light reveals the location of the dungeon core. The party's morale just bottoms out, and Gran says they have to clear the boss to reach the core, a feat everyone knows is basically impossible. A confident voice from off-screen cuts in. "Yo, relax." While the guys are having a full-on meltdown, Ren slings an arm around a flustered Desmond, bragging that with his enchantment magic, this boss is going to be a one-shot kill. An analysis reticle appears over the golem's leg, scanning its properties. A status window reveals the monster's name, ice armor, marionette, and its totally busted stats, especially its vitality of 1,350. Desmond explains, dead serious, that while his buffing magic multiplies stats, there's a major catch. Garen asks if even with his OP skill they can't take it down, and Desmond quietly confirms that it's a no-go. Desmond apologizes to the party, explaining that even if he multiplies their power, their base stats are just too low to even scratch the boss. An adventurer asks what the play is now that the core is gate-kept. Wondering if the whole quest was a bust, Desmond reveals a new strategy. Look, they can't DPS the boss, but they can definitely block its attacks. He announces he's going to use a vitality buff to skyrocket everyone's defense. Cut to a chibi, max-powered Ren, striking a pose and flexing enthusiastically. With their defense stats buffed to the max, Ren can tank the boss's aggro, letting them slip by and nuke the core. Ren gives the golem's giant leg a playful pat, totally vibing with the massive creature. Durand remembers the insane protective power of Desmond's enchantment from before, admitting it was seriously OP, but he's still not completely sold on the idea. Desmond nervously insists it's a solid plan, while Garand thinks to himself that Ren has some serious main character guts to just charge in. Smiling, Desmond explains that he's already checked everyone's status windows and, when it comes to their defense attributes, his face turns dead serious as he looks ahead, sensing something is way off script. Desmond whips around, sees Ren has vanished, and yells her name, completely confused. Plot twist! Ren is already full-sending it, screaming at Deskin to hurry up and cast his enhancement magic. The party freaks out, with Garan yelling at Ren for being a total meathead while Desmond scrambles to cast the spell. Mariel just watches, recognizing the S-tier potential of Desmond's magic, but she's blown away by Ren's blind faith and her zero hesitation, Leroy Jenkins-style charge. Ren rushes the ice golem, sword at the ready, screaming, "Get wrecked!" The golem's single eye narrows, locking its frosty death stare on the approaching warrior. As the party panics that the boss has aggroed on Ren, Dorothy yells at Desmond to get it together, and he, totally stressed, says he's casting the skill right now. Desmond glances down, a puzzled look on his face, freaking out because his enhancement magic won't activate, and then he sees it. The orb on his staff is totally encased in a block of shimmering ice. My staff. Desmond screams like the world is ending, holding up his weapon, which is now about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. He has a flashback of the potion, flash freezing on contact, and realizes with dawning horror that he must have accidentally brushed a wall. He totally blew it. Desmond goes into a full-blown panic, screaming that without his staff, he can't channel his mana. Dorothy's just staring, her eyes wide, and totally worried about this epic fail on Desmond's part. The golem's eye glows with malicious intent as it prepares to one-shot the defenseless Ren. The golem unleashes a deadly barrage of razor-sharp ice projectiles right at Ren. A party member screams her name as the ice shards lock on target. The hail of ice closes in on Ren, who's caught right in the middle of the AoE. Ren looks up, completely frozen, her eyes wide as the lethal icicles rain down on her. Drown screams that there's no way she can dodge that, as Dorothy covers her eyes in terror. At the very last second, Mariel makes a diving tackle, slamming Ren to the ground and saving her from the kill shot. Oof! Mariel groans from the impact, while Ren yells at her to get her butt in gear because another round is incoming. Wham! The golem unleashes another wave of ice projectiles at the two downed warriors. The party watches in terror, with Garan shouting, "No way!" and another guy yelling for them to bail. Mariel and Ren get back on their feet together, bracing for battle as they face the imposing golem. The golem's crystalline body begins to glow with immense power, charging up its next skill. Ren stares hard at Mariel and shouts, "Hey, your leg." Realizing something is seriously off, the scene snaps to a brutal impact. Sharp blue crystals pierce through the dark armor, drawing blood. Mariel glances down with a grimace, bitterly realizing she totally screwed up. Ren helps an injured Mariel, who urges her to escape, but Ren absolutely refuses to ditch her after she saved her. As another barrage of ice shards rains down on them, Mariel warns Ren with a dead serious look that her shonen protagonist complex is going to get them both wiped. The deadly shower of ice shatters harmlessly just before making contact, disintegrating in the air around the two girls. Freaking out that they're still alive, Ren and Mariel shout in confusion, with Mariel wondering if it was a mana shield. Garan stands before them, having blocked the attack just in the nick of time, as a relieved Ren calls out to the old man. Thump! Garan lands firmly, seriously warning the girls there won't be a next time and telling them to move it. Asterisk thud asterisk. Garan immediately faceplants, making Ren and Mariel wonder with deadpan expressions if he just croaked. As the next attack readies to launch, Mariel starts to panic, frantically asking a worried Ren what the hell they're supposed to do now. As the girls huddle over Garan's unconscious body, a burst of fire erupts, vaporizing the incoming ice shards. Ren and Mariel stare in stunned silence, and Ren asks in disbelief if she's actually seeing fire. Dorothy reveals she neutralized the attack with a Tier 3 spell, leaving Mariel absolutely floored that she could cast such high-level magic. With dizzy, spiraling eyes, Dorothy admits she's now completely out of MP, which makes Mariel scream, losing her mind over her party's incompetence. Some dude from Squad 24 is carrying Garand, complaining that while they're alive by a miracle, now they just have more people to evac. While his party members freak out and demand a plan, Desmond freezes, not knowing what to do. Trembling, Desmond grips his frozen staff and consumed by guilt, thinking this is all his fault. He's beating himself up for his arrogance, admitting he got cocky, thinking his buff magic would actually make his garbage tier plan work. A painful memory surfaces, echoing the cruel words, "You're totally worthless." In a painful flashback, a red-haired woman named Adele and a silver-haired man called Desmond a complete screw-up. Crushed by the memory, Desmond accepts that Adele and the others were right all along, admitting to himself that he's incapable of doing anything. Tears stream down Desmond's face as he breaks down, believing he's nothing more than an incompetent liability. The adventurers descend into chaos and despair, with Ren and Dorothy shell-shocked and Mariel thinking it's game over. In a void of hopelessness, Desmond's thoughts just replay his feelings of uselessness. Suddenly, a hand violently snatches Desmond by the collar of his shirt, yanking him out of his self-pity spiral. The brown-haired adventurer from Mariel's party glares angrily at a stunned Desmond. He gets right in Desmond's face, accusing him of acting like he's the only one having a hard time. Then the adventurer blushes, admitting he's basically the dead weight of the party for chugging potions mid-quest, which makes Desmond totally lose his mind. He claims he's a healer who uses booze as a mana catalyst, and then the dude just casts a resto spell on Desmond. He explains that his potions don't freeze easy, while a clutch system window pops up detailing the science behind alcohol's freezing point. By channeling his own body heat with the alcohol, he starts to melt the thick layer of frost off Desmond's staff. Steam billows from the staff as the ice melts away, with the other party members totally wiped and collapsed on the floor. One of the guys from Party 24 starts freaking out, saying their evasion stats are shot, but when Mariel tells him to man up and carry the team, he deadass says he'd rather be the one getting carried. Just then, the ice-armored golem hits full regen, glowing with some serious bad vibes as the dude cusses out the insane difficulty of B-rank dungeons. Another deadly volley of ice shards comes flying at the wiped-out adventurers. All of a sudden, a green aura envelops the party, tanking the damage as they wonder, completely shook, how the heck they're still standing. Ren just stares at the green mana glowing around her own hands, totally bugging out over what the heck this power-up is. The source of this OP buff turns out to be Desmond, who's standing tall, his staff finally unsealed and pulsing with a massive green aura, looking totally ready for a comeback. Ren, Mariel, and their party leader start hyping Desmond up. Desmond stands there looking totally confident, staff in hand, its glowing green orb signaling he's ready to throw down. His eyes are now glowing with an intense green light, full of fierce determination. The ice-armored golem narrows its single eye, focusing on the newly buffed-up party, all of them glowing with green auras. The adventurers rally up as one of their leaders declares it's time for the counter-offensive, with a determined shout of, "Let's do this!" Desmond unleashes his mana across the entire battlefield, casting a whole volley of buffs. He hits Ren with a vitality boost, Meryl and her partner with strength and agility buffs, and his allies with mana regen. The wave of magic then reaches Dorothy, granting her a mental fortitude buff. The healer who saved his staff gets a major healing power boost, instantly curing his frostbite debuff. The golem launches another barrage of ice shards, totally clueless about the party's massive power-up. Now totally buffed up, the adventurers effortlessly dodge and weave through the once deadly ice barrage. A smirking Meryl taunts the golem, flexing that it can't even touch her anymore. Ren smoothly slides under an attack, proclaiming that dodging this boss is a total cakewalk now. Desmond urgently yells at his hyped-up teammates, reminding them they still can't actually take down the boss. He clarifies their real objective, the dungeon core, located right behind the massive boss. Got it? A confident and newly buffed Ren dashes past the golem, straight for the glowing core. With a fierce grin, Ren closes in on her target, declaring that this is the finale. The golem's eye swivels, locking onto the charging warrior with a menacing glare. Dorothy screams in a panic, desperately warning Ren to watch out for an incoming attack. A wall of ice erupts from the ground, blocking Ren's path as she yells in frustration. Dorothy shouts, asking if she's okay, and she yells back that she was so close to clearing it. Garin shouts for them to go for another run, but Mariel's partner suddenly tells everyone to look at the core. To their shock, the party watches as the glowing dungeon core starts sinking into the floor. The healer drops a curse, realizing with horror that the boss is trying to hide its weak point. As the core sinks lower, one of the party members warns that it's about to despawn, leaving them with no way to clear the dungeon. Garand and the healer start yelling in a full-blown panic, wondering what the heck they're supposed to do now. Cutting through the chaos, Desmond announces a new plan, a distraction strat. To the healer's total confusion, Desmond lays out his strategy. Everyone else will draw the boss's aggro, creating an opening for one person to nuke the core. Ren gets it and bravely volunteers to make the run, declaring she has the highest agility stat in the party. With the core almost completely submerged, a thought bubble points out they only have one shot at this. With a battle cry, the entire party charges in together, as Garand hypes them up to go all out. The adventurers start taunting the ice golem, yelling at it to come get some, successfully pulling its aggro away from the core. Whoops! One adventurer playfully dodges a swing, keeping up the shouts and taunts at the distracted golem. The ice golem seems confused for a sec by the coordinated aggro pulling from the scattered party members. Ren's face goes full-on serious mode, laser-focused for the critical strike. With the golem's aggro pulled, Ren makes a mad dash for the exposed, glowing core. Garand watches, his heart pounding, gritting his teeth and praying Ren makes it in time. Dorothy and the party's healer are totally freaking out, begging for Ren to reach the core before it's a total party wipe. Mariel and another adventurer jump in to tank a hit, screaming at Ren to hurry up. We get a flash of those 5 cocky adventurers from Desmond's past, all smirking like jerks. Ren leaps into the air, sword held high, aiming a decisive blow at the crystalline core. With a battle cry of pure determination, he prepares to bring his blade down with everything he's got. Let's go, Ren yells, channeling all of his enhanced power into one final skill. His sword slams into the target, creating an insane explosion of mana. Flashing a triumphant, fang-filled grin, Ren shouts in celebration, thinking he totally just pwned it. But his sword stops dead against a transparent ice barrier protecting the core. Dorothy, the healer, and Mariel just stare, slack-jawed, screaming in shock when they realize his attack was blocked. The party realizes the boss was defending its core the entire time it was fighting them. A way more high IQ strategy than they ever expected. A heavy silence falls over the party. That was their one, and only, shot. The core lets out one last pulse of brilliant light, about to fade away completely. The party starts to panic, the healer screaming that it's game over and the core is about to despawn. A single tear rolls down Desmond's cheek as he whispers in despair, "It's over." Suddenly, a powerful voice cuts through the hopelessness, shouting, "Don't give up." Desmond and Ren look up, totally stunned, to see the archer from Garon's squad knocking an arrow. The archer leaps into the air, drawing his bowstring for one last, desperate shot. Garand roars with fierce resolve that if one person fails, there's always a backup. "I'm an archer," the guy declares, unleashing a glowing, mana-infused arrow. The golden arrow streaks through the air, heading straight for the rapidly fading core. The golem hastily throws up a massive ice wall to intercept the projectile. The healer shrieks that the golem's gonna block it again, and Mariel, looking grim, agrees that the arrow won't make it. With insane determination, Dorothy shouts, "Like hell you will," and unleashes a high-tier fireball spell, aiming to intercept the golem's defensive wall. The fireball obliterates the wall of ice, clearing a path for the golden arrow to fly true. Desmond and Ren watch with wide eyes, in total awe as the arrow continues on, unopposed. Asterisk, crack. Asterisk. The arrow hits its mark, and the dungeon core shatters into countless glittering fragments. As the dust settles, a relieved Desmond shouts in victory, "We did it!" The other adventurers, including Dorothy, the archer, and Mariel, and the healer, watch in stunned silence as the core breaks apart. Ren echoes the victory cry, exclaiming that they finally shattered the core. The massive, ice-armored golem begins to crack and tremble, its single eye wide with what looks like shock. With one final shudder, the golem completely falls to pieces, revealing it was nothing more than a hollow shell of ice. A blast of freezing air hits the party as Mariel, Dorothy, and the healer yell out from the shock in the biting cold. The ice dungeon begins to collapse, massive cracks spreading across the walls and floor. The adventurers huddle together as the dungeon crumbles around them. With its structure now unstable, Desmond looks around in a daze, realizing the entire place is frozen solid. The defeated golem is now just a lifeless ice statue in the center of the boss room. The healer reminds Desmond about their plan, and Dorothy watches them process the win while Ren celebrates like a maniac beside him. The entire party erupts in cheers, celebrating their hard-fought victory against the B-rank dungeon boss. The archer and the healer congratulate their leader, Desmond, telling him he was totally the MVP. An ecstatic Ren jumps on Desmond, hugging him and calling him Des Kuhn, but he humbly insists it wasn't because of his own power. Despite his modesty, a warm, genuinely satisfied smile spreads across Desmond's face as his party member hugs him. As the celebration continues, the party notices a red gem has appeared, glowing intensely from within the golem's frozen remains. Dorothy, Mariel, and the healer are completely stunned, totally confused, wondering how that's even possible and what the heck that gem is. It suddenly dawns on Garand and Ren that the very artifact they were looking for was hidden inside the boss mob this whole time. A grinning Mariel celebrates their double win, quest complete and clearing a B-rank dungeon. The party's dwarf celebrates finding the loot, while Garand, Desmond, and Ren give him a blank stare. Mariel, just messing around, holds the treasure high, telling Desmond to join her party if he wants his cut of the loot. Garand is floored by Mariel's nonsense, but Ren cheers her on, and Desmond watches with a small smile. With a smug grin while clutching the gem, Mariel says that after seeing his performance, she's even more determined to have him as a party member. The healer tells Mariel to hand over the treasure they all worked for, but she calls Ren a sellout for agreeing. Meanwhile, the silver-haired guy politely asks to see the loot. The silver-haired guy insists on seeing the gem, but a now annoyed Mariel cuts him off, telling him to zip it. Cockily, she declares that the gem is her bargaining chip, and there's no way in hell she's giving it up until Desmond agrees to join her squad. Provocatively, Mariel asks Desmond what his move is. As the silver-haired dude watches in silence, a sinister thought flashes through his mind. Jack the gem. Out of nowhere, he lunges, unleashing a vicious skill slash at Mariel and the party's healer. The rest of the party, including Dorothy and the dwarf, are totally bugging out, watching their so-called ally turn on them. In a flash of brutal violence, Mariel and the healer get one-shotted. A spray of crimson stains the icy ground. Spinning on a dime, the silver-haired traitor targets Desmond, who just barely manages to parry the blow. his face a mask of pure confusion. Desmond gets sent flying from the sheer force of the impact, while Ren and Dorothy are just frozen, totally hit with a fear debuff. Dorothy and a fanged-out Ren scream, unable to process this sudden, brutal betrayal arc. "What the hell are you doing, Jin?" A furious Garand roars, outing the attacker's name. Now holding the Crimson Artifact, Jin calmly states that securing this stone was his main quest from the very beginning. He scoffs, saying he was hoping for a peaceful clear, but he throws shade at Mariel for not just dropping the item. Garand confronts Jin, reminding him they're party members, but Jin shuts him down with an ice-cold aura. He accuses Garand's guild of just using people for their own gain. Garand flashes back to how his party had a rep for finding rare drops out of nowhere, and it hits him they were just being farmed. Jin reveals his true allegiance is to a dark guild called the Black Underarm, leaving Dorothy and Ren completely shook as he lets out a totally unhinged laugh. Jin admits he was just a mole in their party to complete his quest and was never their comrade, which makes Garand totally snap. "You bastard," Garand roars. He draws his bow, aiming a mana-infused skill shot right at the traitor. Tsk! Jin just scoffs, deflecting the arrow with his dagger like it's nothing, calling the attack pathetic. Garand grimaces, realizing Jin was sandbagging the whole time and knew their real power levels. Jin laughs at the party, saying that without Desmond's buffs, they're nothing but a bunch of D-rank fodder. As the enhancement spell wears off, Jin brandishes his daggers, bragging that his own power level is way beyond some basic C-rank adventurer. With his eyes glowing with a menacing red aura, Jin swears he's going to wipe them all out, right here and now. Time to log off. Jin growls. He lunges forward to deliver the finishing blow to the now defenseless adventurers. The silver-haired menace rushes the party, roaring a single, lethal command. "Disappear!" The party's black-haired archer grinds his teeth, thinking, "Damn it all." He screams at the blonde girl, begging her to run before they get party-wiped. When she hesitates, the archer hoists the KO'd kid onto his shoulder, determined to escape the attacker closing in on their position. The silver-haired attacker smirks, thinking he can't let any of them escape his aggro range. He hurls his blade in a deadly arc, aiming straight for the fleeing archer. Clang! The weapon slams into the archer's shoulder, but an invisible mana shield deflects it. The silver-haired attacker's face twists in pure disbelief. His sure-hit skill just failed. The party's tanky dwarf is losing his mind, just as stunned by that unexpected defense. A whoosh cuts the air as the attacker backs off. Totally confused. Why aren't his attacks landing on a party that looks like a bunch of noobs? The KO'd kid, Desmond, starts to wake up as the blonde girl cries his name in relief and the archer looks on, shocked. From a distance, the attacker sees Desmond coughing, wondering if he's all right, and suspecting he's the source of that protective ward. The attacker connects the dots, realizing Desmond's staff must have an auto-cast defensive skill that triggered when he got knocked unconscious. The archer lets out a nervous laugh, as a wounded Desmond thinks to himself that he royally screwed up. With a vicious smirk, the attacker admits he hesitated to just off Desmond, thinking he might be a useful pawn. His expression twists into pure fury, as he snarls that he should have just erased him first, sending a chill through the whole party. He brushes off his own regret, stating casually that he's already secured the prize he came for anyway. Announcing his exit, the assailant turns and bolts down a frost-covered corridor. He throws one last look over his shoulder with a mocking little smile, thanking the noobs for being so easy to use. Desmond grinds his teeth in seething rage, stung by the cruel jab that allies are just expendable tools. He clenches his fist in anguish, lamenting that he'd finally found a real party, only for it all to go to hell. The harsh reality of the situation hits him hard. The whole plan was a total wipe. The looks of despair on Desmond's, the archer's, and the blonde girl's faces show the crushing weight of their defeat. The elf and the dwarf watch in equal shock and dismay. It's revealed that two other party members, a purple-haired woman and another man, are lying critically injured, coughing up pools of their own blood. The purple-haired woman struggles to sit up, defiantly telling their enemy not to underestimate them. She reminds her stunned comrades of something she told them when they first formed the party, all while clutching a gleaming red gem. She declares that she's a thief, and she refuses to hand over the artifact her friends died for. The rest of the party just stares, completely floored by her badass confession. The silver-haired attacker is absolutely stunned, frantically wondering when the hell she could have possibly swiped the gem from him. The woman, Mariel, lets out a weak, triumphant laugh before she collapses, as her horrified party members scream her name. The archer yells desperate orders to heal Mariel and the other fallen comrade, Zenri, as the attacker watches from the hallway. As the bastard smirks, Desmond suddenly starts to laugh, a chilling sound in the tense silence. Their enemy admits he seriously underestimated the trash mob and that they've finally managed to piss him off. An ominous purple light flares in his eye as he vows to wipe them all out next time. His chilling threat sends a palpable wave of fear through the party. The attacker's voice echoes with a final warning about the abyss of betrayal and the trust between comrades as his sigil fades from the archway. A new party of adventurers arrives on the scene, completely reeling from the scene of devastation. A man with light brown hair shouts in alarm as he sees Desmond's party emerging with their wounded. A critically wounded Mariel and Zenri are evacuated on stretchers as the narration confirms the first raid with the Chiolier Garden is officially cleared. The adventurers solemnly carry their injured comrades from the depths of the ice dungeon. Desmond, the elf, and the blonde girl stand together. Their mission is now, officially, a success. Far in the distance, the silver-haired attacker smirks, acknowledging the new rivals he's just made. The scene shifts to a towering stone fortress, signaling a return to civilization. The blonde girl, Ren, cheerfully greets the dwarf, Doran, calling him an old geezer. The party's elf greets Renan and asks how she's holding up, to which Ren insists it's no big deal. Ren glances around, asking her two companions where Desmond is. The elf explains that Desmond was summoned for the mission debriefing. A bearded man with long, dark hair greets him enthusiastically, congratulating Desmond on a job well done. Lounging casually in his office, the man tells Desmond that making him the squad leader was the right call. Desmond quietly accepts the compliment, offering a simple thank you. The bearded man hums, satisfied, taking a swig from his flask. Draping an arm over Desmond, he tells him to lighten up and celebrate the B-rank quest, which is a massive achievement for the 5th Brigade. As he walks away, Desmond reflects that the mission's success wasn't his alone, and that it came at a high price. His superior reassures him, promising that his injured comrades will recover, citing the top-tier medical team from the Chiolier Gardens that's in the healing ward. A wave of guilt washes over Desmond as he thinks that if only he'd been stronger, they wouldn't have gotten hurt. The man comforts him, saying he did more than enough, and brings up a lesson he tried to teach him before they deployed. A flashback shows the man explaining that the real objective of the quest was for Desmond to understand comradeship, danger, and resolve. Desmond admits that it's true, but now that revelation has him totally freaked, terrified that the same disaster will happen all over again. His eyes go wide with dread, imagining his new, precious party members getting wiped because of him. Ugh, the bearded dude sighs, resigned to it all, while the woman with the glasses gives him a look like she is so over this. Lost in his own head, Desmond walks solo down a long, empty hallway. Watching him walk off, she tells the bearded guy that even though the kid has S-rank potential, making Desmond the party leader was way too rushed. The man muses out loud. He wonders if Desmond has ever had a real party before. The woman nods, pointing out that he looks like he's trying to solo carry the entire quest on his own. The man concludes that even though Desmond is about to hit his breaking point, this trial by fire is a necessary quest for his character development. As the woman snags his bottle, the bearded dude lets out a hilarious cry of protest. Decked out in his cloak and holding his staff, Desmond feels completely lost in the dungeon, with no clue what his next move should be. Flashbacks of that brutal raid hit him hard, and he swears his party members will never have to go through that hell again. He pictures his whole team smiling, just like they used to. The thought of losing even one of his party members is almost unbearable. The threat from that silver-haired psycho to just wipe them all out echoes in his memory like a chilling system alert. He can almost feel a phantom splash of blood on his face, a visceral reminder of what's on the line. Panicked but with his determination stat maxed out, he decides he can't afford to lose his friends. He has to level up, and fast. With a new main quest accepted in his mind, he approaches a sketchy, dark void at the end of the hall. Then, out of nowhere, he's warped to a totally new and bizarre location. Bewildered and wondering where the heck he is, he scopes out the massive chamber, seriously doubting a pocket dimension like this could exist inside the Chiolier Gardens. A disembodied voice welcomes him, revealing he was summoned to this instance on purpose. Totally startled, Desmond whips around, demanding to know who's talking. Two menacing red eyes glow from inside a vortex of blue mana. Ah! He screams as an invisible force just yeets him violently through the air. He lands in a skid across the stone floor, stunned and breathless from the surprise attack. Pushing himself up from the ground, Desmond sees a pair of dark boots appear, and as he's wondering who this new challenger is, a silver-haired woman with a blindfold and red demonic wings greets him, saying she's heard all about his interesting unique skill. Desmond is frozen solid, completely freaking out at her sudden and threatening appearance. His instincts are screaming, sensing an immense and dangerous aura pouring off the stranger. His eyes go wide as he starts to process just how screwed he is. A status window pops up, revealing monster-tier stats with impossible numbers, leading him to a terrifying conclusion. She's an S-ranker. The woman then reveals her allegiance, claiming she's from the Black Arm. Pointing a sharp red nail at him with a fanged smirk, she declares she's come to make him log out permanently. The name sounds kind of familiar, and Desmond remembers the parting threat from that silver-haired attacker. He recalls the guy was part of some enemy guild that targets cadets from the Chevalier Gardens. His heart is hammering in his chest as he realizes the enemy has found him way sooner than he ever could have imagined. He's losing his mind that they managed to infiltrate the supposedly safe zone of Chevalier Gardens so easily. The S-rank woman just smirks, radiating an aura of absolute OP confidence. Gripping his staff, Desmond knows he has to stop her right here, or everyone he cares about will be in the danger zone. With a playful finger on her lips, she seems to be mocking his resolve. Desmond's expression hardens, ready to face an enemy who's on a whole different tier. Whoa. She unleashes a massive mana blast, declaring his efforts are totally useless. She laughs like a maniac, boasting that low tiers can never defeat the overwhelmingly strong, no matter what half-baked strategy they use. A torrent of blue mana crashes right into Desmond, who barely manages to throw up a defense with his staff. Arg! Desmond screams in pain as the stream of energy completely overwhelms him. The silver-haired woman floats in the air, looking victorious, as Desmond gets slammed into the stone floor. Dazed and gasping for air, Desmond struggles to get back up. Surrounded by a vortex of flames, the woman taunts him about what he's going to do now, pointing out that his support magic is useless if he has no one to buff, and warns him to think fast. Desmond's silhouette is swallowed by the hellish whirlwind of fire. A faint green light begins to glow from his boot as sparks of mana crackle around him. Pushing himself to his feet, Desmond channels the green aura into his staff, as a system notification confirms he's activated vitality buff on himself. Huh. The S-rank chick is totally cracking up, like she can't believe he chose to buff himself. She just scoffs at his effort with this smug little smirk, declaring that some basic self-enhancement spell won't be enough to score a win. Gritting his teeth, Desmond realizes she's right, he's completely out-leveled. He starts to panic, knowing his stats are a total joke, and he's got zero options. But he has to try time something asterisk, anything, as his enemy thinks with total arrogance. What a scrub. A small, sinister orb of purple mana condenses at the tip of her sharp, red nail. Desmond's eyes go wide, totally freaking out in terror as he senses the incoming high-tier skill. The woman unleashes a massive, swirling vortex of purple dark magic straight at him. With a cruel, fanged grin, she declares this is his game over. Desmond just stares in shock, his eyes bugging out at the overwhelming power rushing toward him. She wishes him a glorious demise as the colossal sphere of dark energy closes in. As the magic starts to swallow him whole, he wonders if this is really how he gets wiped, feeling completely powerless to stop it. A flash of a silver-haired woman in white armor Cynthia crosses his mind. Suddenly, a new voice yells out, "Master," and the elf from his party appears in a nearby doorway, interrupting the attack. The elf, looking totally bewildered, asks what the heck is going on and calls out to Desmond in surprise. Both Desmond and the S-rank woman are completely frozen by the interruption, as Desmond yells out the elf's name, Dorothy Sanley. The gigantic sphere of dark magic just fizzles out as Desmond stares in disbelief, his mind totally blown by that master comment. The once lethal attack shrinks down into a tiny, harmless little purple orb, which floats comically in front of a poker-faced Desmond. In a flash, the dark, threatening void morphs into a brightly lit hall filled with confetti and flower petals raining from the sky, leaving Desmond completely baffled as he stares at the celebration, with no idea what's happening. A bewildered Desmond thinks to himself that the confetti is actually falling in a super pretty way. A chibi version of the S-rank woman appears, proudly admiring her own beautiful magic, while Desmond just stammers, totally confused by her sudden change in appearance. Against a flowery backdrop, she cheerfully introduces herself as Rafim Nolan, the Master Noah. Standing next to a dumbfounded Dorothy, Rafim explains that she's Dorothy's adoptive mother, her magic instructor, and a member of the 1st Brigade, alongside Cynthia. Desmond's mind is completely blown. A giant 284 pops up next to his head as he processes a system chart of the Chevalier Garden's elite command structure. Huh? His shout of disbelief echoes all the way outside the Grand Chevalier Garden. The illusion shatters, returning them to a luxurious room as Desmond gawks at the pocket dimension. While Desmond is freaking out over the magically created room, Dorothy just sighs, thinking her master is on a whole other level. Dorothy confronts Rafim, demanding to know why she tried to wipe out Desmond, but Rafim just brushes it off, saying it was just a slightly intense little lesson. Desmond is totally speechless, unable to believe how that terrifying, world-ending attack could possibly be considered a little lesson. Rafim reveals that Cynthia told her about Desmond's potential, and that she also knows about the insane scores he got on the evaluation. She then adds bluntly, that when she finally met him, he looked like he was already half dead. Her expression turns serious as she asks why he decided to fight her. Getting right in his face, she calls him a moron and an idiot for trying to take her on knowing he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. Nervously, Desmond tries to explain that he couldn't just bail because his party members would have been taken out. Rafim bluntly shuts down his logic, stating that he would have been wiped out first and his party would have died anyway. She lays into him, insisting that what he should have done was run for it and scream for backup. Desmond looks down, speechless and stunned by her harsh but logical reasoning. Rafim clarifies that she didn't mean he should have asked some low-rankers for help. She reminds him that there are other S-rank individuals at the Chevalier Garden, including his commander, Cynthia, and herself. A single tear escapes Desmond's eye as he absorbs the weight of the lesson. Rafim tells him he puts way too much responsibility on his own shoulders, and that he's wrong to think he has to protect everyone by himself. Dorothy and Rafim tag-team him with the lecture, asking who the hell he thinks he is, and telling him he can't protect anything by trying to solo everything. Rafim yells in frustration, demanding to know why he won't trust in others. Her words hit Desmond like a physical blow. A gentle hand takes his, as a voice softly whispers his name, offering comfort. Dorothy holds Desmond's hands, conceding that his master's assessment was spot on. He pleads with him not to solo the entire quest, insisting the party needs to share the burden. In a flashback, his party holds rank while the blonde girl muses that they're all on the same page, wishing they'd min-maxed their stats better or had a higher INT score. Looking him dead in the eye, Dorothy tells Desmond that just like he's their frontliner, they're his support class. She admits it feels like a mana-drained void when he won't let them buff him. Her words, loaded with a powerful emotional debuff, hit him right in the feels, leaving Desmond totally stunned and deeply moved. Overwhelmed by the feels, a waterfall of tears streams down Desmond's face as he realizes he's got a real party he can count on. As Dorothy and Rafim watch, Desmond thinks that even though this is a massive debuff to his dignity, he can't stop the waterworks, and a heavy status effect lifts from his soul. A faint, all-knowing smirk plays on Rafim's lips. Rafim watches Dorothy console Desmond, thinking to herself that he's kind of a high-maintenance party member, but she just chalks it up to him being in his awkward leveling-up phase. Desmond mulls over Cynthia's faith that he'd carry the clan's legacy, finally getting what she was on about. In a super-deformed chibi thought bubble, a blushing Cynthia is just gushing, going on about how S-tier, amazing, and totally cute her childhood friend Des is, while Rafim watches with a troll-level smirk. Rafim is totally geeking out, imagining the epic look on Cynthia's face when she drops the news that she met Desmond. And speak of the devil, like she was summoned, Cynthia pops up in a nearby doorway, rocking a seriously intimidating aura. Rafim's chibi, troll-face grin just gets wider, totally hyped for the drama bomb that's about to drop. Dorothy gives Desmond a gentle hug, casting a minor calming spell on the moment. Using her stealth skill, Rafim dips out while a totally stunned Cynthia processes that Des is crying into some other chick's chest, thinking, "My bad, dude." As an aura of pure SSS rank fury flares up around Cynthia, Rafim watches the whole scene unfold with a smug, "I know the future plot" kind of smirk. A voice echoes through the Chevalier Garden, laughing and warning that maybe not even all the mana in the world could save him now. Whoa! A totally flustered Desmond pulls back, apologizing to Dorothy, who just smiles and says it's no big deal. In a chibi cutaway, Desmond is internally screaming about the massive hit to his rep from crying, and on Dorothy's chest, of all places, while she's saying she's just glad he trusts the party, his face goes nuclear red from the sheer cringe. He starts to panic, wondering what kind of critical failure he just rolled, and then has the audacity to think that maybe, just maybe, he rolled a nat 20 on luck. Rafim points over to a shell-shocked Cynthia in the doorway, who looks like she just saw a high-level undead. With her eyes bugging out, Cynthia's brain is lagging hard trying to process the scene, confirming that, yep, Des is crying on some other girl's chest. Totally panicking, Desmond spots Cynthia and starts stuttering, trying to debuff this massive misunderstanding. A beet-red Cynthia yells that if he needs a shoulder to cry on, then her chest is a perfectly good option. Adding to Desmond's total system overload, the party's confused and cringy reactions just hover over the castle as laughter echoes everywhere. The scene cuts to the Grand Dungeon Guild Hall, the central hub for managing dungeons and adventurers. Freaking bam! Some dude just smashes his fist into a quest board on the wall, totally spooking two low-level adventurers nearby. A red-headed woman tries to de-aggro the raging guy, Adele, while some blonde dude in full plate tells him to hold up. Adele yells at him, asking how he can be so chill when they're in this mess. He crumples up a notice in a rage, confirming their party got demoted from B rank all the way down to a measly C-. The blonde warrior just accepts their fate, saying they've been failing one dungeon crawl after another. Adele grinds his teeth as he hears other adventurers laughing at his party for getting nerfed. The shady silhouettes of the other adventurers keep trash-talking, thinking the whole situation is hilarious. The gossips remember the party was once a big deal, like the super rookies, and guess they'll be back to F-rank noobs soon. The shadowy figures just laugh, saying if that were them, they'd be so ashamed they'd just delete their adventurer profile. The demoted party stands alone in the guild hall while everyone else whispers and stares. The redhead tells the blonde knight to just let them run their mouths. Admitting their old cocky attitude made them a ton of rivals. Don't even start with me. Adele finally snaps, yanking one of the trash talkers by the collar and calling them F-rank losers while his buddy yells his name. His party members try to pull him off, warning him that starting a PvP match here will just make their situation worse. The dude he's grabbing just smirks, asking if he's seriously trying to apply a choke debuff. He points out he can't even feel a single point of STR in that grip, leaving Adele and the redhead totally shook. Other onlookers start commenting on how weak the party looks, with one guy bragging he could solo them with one hand. Totally humiliated, Adele grinds his teeth and tells his party member they're logging out of here. Nearby, a couple of dudes are gossiping about the rumor that their party's old enchanter was some kind of secret prodigy. They're connecting the dots, realizing their team, Espatata, started to tank right after their quiet enchanter bailed. And what do you know? Some new, ridiculously OP enchanter over at Chevalier's garden fits his exact description. Meanwhile, as the defeated party sulks in the lounge, a mysterious figure in some seriously oversized boots approaches them. Adel is slumped on a bench, deep in the dumps, flanked by his two equally gloomy party members. The blonde guy asks, "So, what's the play now?" But the redhead says it's not an option. They're flat broke and can't afford a new enchanter. She shows off a fresh gash on her arm, whining that their party is total garbage now, and they keep failing every single dungeon raid. Man, this sucks. She sighs in despair, realizing their debt is just piling up and they'll face guild bankruptcy soon. Ugh, the blonde dude is worried they'll get their adventurer licenses revoked if they mess up again, and Adele realizes that would be their permanent game over. Adele grinds his teeth, his frustration practically radiating like a chaotic aura over their crappy situation. The blonde kid admits that rumor they heard earlier is really getting to him. He confirms it's true. Their combat effectiveness totally nosedived the second Desmond bounced, and the redhead agrees that it's been one bad roll after another since then. She adds it's more than just failed quests. Lately, she's felt like she's been hit with a permanent, heavyweight debuff. Adele comes to a chilling realization, exclaiming it's like their party's Luke stat just dropped to 0. The blonde guy asks Adel what's gotten into him, shocked by his sudden outburst. Kicking the ground in a rage, Adele yells that it's all that bastard Desmond's fault. Convinced Desmond hit them with some kind of curse, a furious Adel declares he's gonna go settle the score. The redhead tries to be the voice of reason, telling Adel to chill out and really think if this is Desmond's fault. Ignoring her, Adel storms off, fuming, as his worried teammates watch him go. Suddenly, a silver-haired young man appears, cheerfully announcing that he's got the scoop on Desmond. He claims he recently partied up with Desmond and found out he was the most trash-tier enchanter he'd ever seen, a total F-rank. The guy adds that Desmond was also bad-mouthing their party, Espatata, which makes the redhead demand to know who the hell he is. With a dark, sinister grin, he brushes off his identity and just says he wants to give them a hand. As the group questions his offer, he confirms his desire to help them get revenge on Desmond, revealing he has a wicked plan in mind. The scene cuts to a sprawling, peaceful town nestled beside a canal. The focus shifts to a magnificent, massive building that stands as the city's central hub. Inside, a vast multi-level library is crammed with scholars and academy mages among towering bookshelves. Desmond is at a table loaded with books, completely zoned in on his grimoire. It's wild. He thinks to himself that enchantment magic has way more depth than he ever imagined, and kicks himself for not grinding this knowledge sooner. He lets out a small laugh, realizing his recent learning curve proves he's been leaning on his multiplication skill like a total noob. His eyes go wide when he discovers a seriously mind-blowing method for using enchantments. He stares intently at the page, learning about stacking enchantment magic. A chibi version of Desmond grins from ear to ear, totally hyped, recognizing the insane value of this new info. He reflects that he never even considered it, being satisfied with just a second casting. But this method is beyond just being OP, it's a total game changer. He reads on, discovering the technique isn't just forbidden, it's straight up illegal kingdom-wide. Cynthia, in her white armor and hood, appears beside him, asking if he's hitting the books. Startled, Desmond jumps and frantically shushes her after almost shouting her name. Whoops. He realizes his little scene has drawn confused stares from the other magic nerds in the library. He quietly asks what's up, and Cynthia explains she finished her quest and decided to drop by. Leaning in close, she smiles and compliments him on studying, saying it's admirable. A blushing Desmond is totally flustered by how close she is, thinking to himself that she smells amazing. Cynthia gives him a knowing, gentle smile, seeing poor Desmond all worked up. Overwhelmed by her proximity, a sweaty mini Desmond thinks that she's way too close. Holy smokes. With spiraling eyes and a goofy grin, Desmond declares that libraries are the absolute best, a chibi Cynthia smiling beside him. Cynthia gazes at him with a serene, beautiful expression. Desmond watches her, blushing as he thinks about how drop-dead gorgeous she is. His thoughts continue as he admires her beauty, her kindness, and her S-rank power, concluding it's no wonder she's so popular. Bam! After a moment of silence, a chibi Desmond just blurts something out. Whoa! Suddenly, the whole library starts buzzing, with everyone freaking out that the legendary Cynthia-sama is right there with them. Totally overwhelmed by being the center of attention, Cynthia rushes Des to make a break for it, and he's instantly on board. Even as the librarian tries to get the mob under control, the crowd is still losing its mind over Cynthia's presence. As everyone gawks at her, a beet-red Cynthia just wants to phase through the floor. One of her fans mentions it's the first time he's ever seen her in real life, and someone else whispers her title, Frozen Blood, causing Cynthia to nearly short-circuit, while Desmond just looks totally clueless. The crowd goes absolutely nuts, seeing them holding hands, wondering who this mysterious main character is with the great Cynthia-sama. As rumors about Cynthia's new boyfriend start flying, she and Desmond are both blushing with these priceless, dorky expressions. Desmond, totally panicking, stammers, "What are you even saying?" and tells Des they need to jet. Like, right now. Run, run, run. A fuming Cynthia storms ahead, dragging Desmond along by the hand. Desmond's worried that these wild rumors could land Cynthia in hot water or even make her start to hate him. A close-up shot reveals Cynthia's gauntlet, gripping his hand with some serious S-rank strength. She leads him through a massive hall, their hands still linked as they leave. We see their intertwined hands again, her armored fingers laced with his. Overwhelmed and blushing like crazy, Desmond looks down, completely flustered. When he glances back, he sees Cynthia watching him with a gorgeous smile that practically lights up the entire hall. Once outside, Cynthia apologizes for interrupting his study grind, admitting she just really wanted to see him for a bit. Desmond tells her not to worry about it, that he can always go back to the library to level up his knowledge later. He grins from ear to ear, and adds that hanging out with her was a way better quest anyway. His words totally hit her in the feels and, blushing hard, she softly whispers his name. Des. Suddenly, Desmond asks her about her Frozen Blood Princess title, causing a chibified Cynthia to let out an embarrassed squeak as he recalls it with a sigh. Cynthia admits she was really hoping to dodge that topic, explaining that S-rank adventurers usually get stuck with epic titles. She reveals that Rafim's nickname is Crimson Frenzy, which Desmond finds pretty wild. Cynthia adds that Rafim's destructive impulses also earned her the title Blood Fiend, a fact that sends a chill right down Desmond's spine. He starts sweating bullets, confirming that the name is a perfect fit, remembering just how OP Rafim was during their duel. Looking at Cynthia, Desmond wonders if her title has ice and princess in it just because she's that damn cool. Cynthia looks back at him, her cheeks pink, with a knowing smile that says it all. Desmond thinks to himself that it would be awesome to see Cynthia in a real high-level battle someday. Their peaceful moment gets totally wrecked when Ren and Garen come sprinting towards them, with Ren screaming at the top of his lungs, "Des-kun!" Desmond asks what the heck is going on, and a frantic Ren yells that the situation is a total catastrophe. Then he drops the bomb. Doran has been kidnapped, leaving Desmond and Cynthia completely stunned. The scene cuts to a wide shot of the Chevalier Gardens castle at dusk. Inside, a dead-serious Rafim explains to the group that she sent Dorothy out on a simple errand, but she never came back, and every last trace of her mana has completely vanished. Rafim concludes that someone has captured Dorothy and is using a skill to conceal her magical signature, leaving Desmond just wondering what the hell is happening. A guard bursts into the room, interrupting them. He informs Rafim that the military police have detained 2 suspicious individuals who are demanding to see Desmond. Desmond is completely baffled and has no idea what's going on, wondering why on earth they would be asking for him. He demands to know what Dorothy's kidnapping has to do with him, but the guard can only say he has no clue. Then the guard drops another bombshell. The 2 people they've captured are members of Espada. The scene shifts to a top-down view of a stone courtyard that leads into a dungeon. Desmond walks toward one of the cells, his mind racing to figure out what the hell is going on. There, he finds his old party members, Marina and Caroso, looking bruised and defeated behind the bars. Marina looks up with a tired expression, acknowledging that Desmond finally showed up. Desmond demands they start explaining, and Caruso tells him that ever since he left the party, their luck completely tanked, and some shady character offered them a shot at revenge. The name of that mysterious guy was Jin, a revelation that makes Desmond break out in a cold sweat. Caruso confesses that Jin ordered them to kidnap one of Desmond's friends to lure him into a trap, and they chose Dorothy because she was the weakest target. A flashback shows us that silver-haired man with an intense glare, Jin, as Marina remembers the seriously bad vibes he gave off, and how Adele totally blew them off when they tried to warn her. In the flashback, Jin just straight up yeets Marina and Caruso like they're some low-level mobs. Then he boots them out to be his little messenger birds for Desmond. Caruso spills Jin's terms. To get the girl back, Desmond has to show up at the Crystal Grottos, but with 0 S-rank adventurers on his team. Then Cynthia and Rafim drop the final, chilling threat. If anyone who wasn't on the VIP list crashes the party, the girl gets an instant, game over. Desmond's expression goes ice cold, all simmering rage and ironclad resolve. The scene cuts to the entrance of a dark, crystalline cave at dusk. Bam! A boot slams down inside the cavern. Desmond's party, with Ren and Garand, has officially entered the Crystal Grottos. They look up and spot Adele, some rando named Jin, and Dorothy, tied up like a loot drop on a high ledge. Helpless, she spots her party, and just screams their names at the top of her lungs. Desmond yells Dorothy's name, totally panicked, while Ren, completely on edge, shouts to ask if she's okay. Desmond glares up at the ledge and unleashes a roar at his ex-party member, Adele. Adele, absolutely seething, snaps at Desmond, telling him not to say his name so casually. And what the hell is he doing bringing these NPCs along? With a villain's smirk, Jin glances down at them. Pfft, they're just a couple of F-rankers. Total one-shot fodder. Desmond fires back at Adele, demanding to know what he's thinking. If he's got a beef, he should settle it with him in a 1v1. Adele, completely unhinged, screams at Desmond to shut his mouth and stop acting like the main character. He accuses him of trashing their rep with some kind of curse, screaming that the whole guild they built went down the drain because of him. Desmond, completely blindsided, is like, "What curse are you talking about? I didn't cast any debuff on you guys." Jin, dripping with sarcasm, tells the hysterical Adele he's pathetic, throwing this whole tantrum over some petty grudge and whining about curses after he got kicked from the party. Desmond shoots Jin a death glare, thinking, this Jin guy is a total psycho, but he admits Adele has a right to his little revenge quest. Ren steps forward, demanding to know who this Jin clown is, and ordering him to let Dorothy go or get ready to throw down. Garan backs him up, warning Jin not to underestimate their stats. They're confident that with Desmond's buffs, this is an easy win. Jin explains that his guild, the Black Arm, dabbles in a few things. You know, looting dungeons, stealing artifacts, and running some. Asterisk unethical times experiments with humans and mana. And speaking of experiments, bam! Jin suddenly jams a syringe full of red liquid right into Adele's neck. Jab. Adele is just frozen, totally in shock, completely clueless about Jin's play, while the silver-haired psycho grins like a maniac behind him. Down below, Desmond's party is just staring, completely floored by this insane plot twist. Clutching his neck, Adele stammers something, completely out of it, as Jin starts to cackle like a classic villain. He's losing it, revealing he only brought this chump Adele along to be his personal lab rat. Arr! Adele shrieks in agony as his body starts to mutate in the most grotesque way. Chunks of monstrous flesh are literally bursting through his skin. Down below, a horrified Desmond yells that he doesn't need this kind of help. Ah! Dorothy lets out a terrified scream as the transformation continues, and Jin just smirks wickedly, totally thrilled to watch the F-rankers tear each other apart. A monstrous, bloody hand claws at the edge of the platform. The transformed Adele roars in pain, his face now just a mess of gore and fangs. Lying on the ledge, the monster weakly begs for someone to save it. In a close-up, a single eye peers out from between the corrupted flesh, desperately pleading for help. Desmond screams Adele's name just as a massive, violent explosion of red mana erupts from the ledge. A giant, gray, scaly tail whips through the air as Desmond, his eyes locked on, watches every detail of the transformation. A colossal gray dragon with red wings now stands on the ledge, casting its massive shadow over Desmond's entire party. Desmond just stares up, his face a perfect picture of what the actual heck, completely unable to process what's happening. The monster dragon roars, its multiple red eyes glowing with pure malice. Whoa! Ren, totally bug-eyed, just asks, what in the world is that thing? Seeing the raid boss-level threat, Desmond immediately shouts, everybody, run for your lives! The beast's attack slams into the ground, triggering a massive explosion that tears up everything. The impact shatters the cavern floor, sending crystal shards flying like shrapnel. Ugh, Desmond grunts, getting hit full force by the shockwave and struggling to stay on his feet. He whips around and sees Ren and Garand are already down, completely knocked off their feet by the sheer force of the attack. As his party members struggle to get up, Desmond yells their names, totally freaked out. He rushes over, frantically asking if they're okay. Desmond glances up in terror at the monster's silhouette looming over them. His face is pure shock, and he can't help but think, what kind of broken skill was that? Gulp. He swallows hard, his nerves shot, still processing how a monster just materialized out of nowhere, right where Adele was standing. Putting two and two together, he realizes Adele was mutated into a monster by some twisted experiment, and activates his appraisal eye skill. A system window pops up, revealing the monster's identity. Name: Adele, race, human Hydra. The appraisal confirms his worst fears, displaying Adele's name and the human Hydra class. He stumbles back, totally bugging out, unable to process the horrifying reality that a human had just been transmuted into a monster. Staring in shock, Desmond thinks to himself this has to be the work of a demon. He scans Adele's full stat sheet, and his mind is blown by the ridiculously jacked up numbers. Seeing the monster's A+ rank strength, Desmond realizes with total despair that there's no way he can win, not even with his enchantment magic. Cough, cough. Amidst the dust and debris, a now freed Dorothy starts to stir. Desmond rushes to her side, asking if she's all right. She confirms the impact shattered her restraints, letting her escape. Suddenly, sensing a dangerous aura, Desmond yells, "Look out!" and shoves Dorothy just as she lets out a panicked "eh." The monster's massive, bladed tail slams into the ground with brutal force, missing Desmond and Dorothy by a hair. A wave of panic hits Desmond, realizing that a single hit from that thing would be an instant game over. As Dorothy checks if he and Doran are okay, with the exit blocked, Ren wonders what the heck they're supposed to do, but Desmond declares that he has to be the one to take down the monster. Ren offers to act as aggro bait with his support, but Desmond shuts down the idea, saying that not even with his buffs can they win against the Hydra that Adele's become. A stressed-out Ren asks what the plan is, sarcastically suggesting they all just try to apologize to the monster. A close-up shows Desmond's bruised but hyper-focused face as he assesses their critical situation. Ren, Garand, and Dorothy watch him with worried expressions, waiting for his call. With renewed determination, Desmond grips his staff and reveals his plan, the enchantment stacking technique. As Ren asks what this stacking thing is, a horrified Dorothy yells that the technique is forbidden. Ren begs Desmond to stop, repeating that it's totally off-limits, which Dorothy confirms is the ultimate taboo. Desmond gravely accepts that it's his only option, while Ren asks Dorothy if stacking is just spamming the same spell over and over. Dorothy confirms Ren's theory, explaining that this taboo method allows for infinite power accumulation, far beyond a normal 20 times enhancement. Ren gets hyped thinking about becoming the strongest in the world, but Desmond clarifies he won't be casting it on her. He's going to use it on himself. Confused, Ren asks why, and Dorothy grimly reveals the forbidden technique has a terrible backlash. Dorothy explains the horrifying cost. The spell shatters the user's body when the effect wears off, leaving them bedridden at best, or straight up dead at worst. With tears in her eyes, she explains that's why it's a taboo and desperately begs Desmond not to use it. Desmond turns his back on her plea, facing the monster and thinking about that guy. Facing the Hydra, Desmond tells his group that the creature, Adele, was an old member of his party. A flashback reveals his complicated history with Adele, admitting he was a jerk and that things ended badly between them. Blaming himself for Adele's monstrous fate, Desmond accepts that what happened is partly his fault. With fierce determination, he asks his friends to let him go, insisting this is a battle he has to fight alone. Desmond takes a resolute step forward, leaving his shocked and worried friends behind. He walks calmly across the cavern floor, closing the distance between himself and the monstrous Adele. Desmond plants himself in front of the menacing Hydra, which is now shrouded in a sinister purple aura. He begins speaking to the monster, asking if Adele remembers the time he was kicked out of their party. With a bitter laugh, Desmond confesses he thought Adele was a horrible person who treated him like trash and never listened. He explains that his new party taught him the meaning of camaraderie, making him realize he should have talked things out more with the old one. As the Hydra roars, Desmond shouts out his regret, wishing he'd just punched Adele in the face to make him listen instead of just whining. He remembers his old party ditching him, knowing they were weak without him, and admits that by leaving, he ditched them too. That's why we have to settle this now, he yells, vowing to do everything he failed to do in the past. Right here, right now. The Hydra lets out a furious roar, its eyes glowing as purple mana gathers in its mouth. It fires a massive beam of destructive purple energy straight at Desmond. The devastating blast rips through the cave, heading straight for our party's enchanter. But Desmond doesn't even flinch. Standing his ground as a green aura begins to flare up around him. The beam of purple energy slams into the ground. Boom! In a brutal explosion. As the dust settles, Desmond's voice echoes through the chaos, announcing he's activated Double Layer. System windows pop up, displaying his stacked buffs as he pushes his skills even further, initiating Triple Layer. His power level skyrockets as he triggers the Quad Layer buff, stacking his enhancements to the max. A flash of his base stats reveals a laughable strength of 1 right before the transformation. His HP and mana bars become unreadable, shooting up to impossible numbers. A single one of his stats shatters the 10 million mark, showcasing the most broken power-up I've ever seen, all while he's wrapped in a whirlwind of golden energy. You see Desmond's stats and just, wow. His power has multiplied by millions. Bring it on, Desmond roars. Let's dance, Adel. The Hydra just growls back, its 6 red eyes locked on, totally stunned by its newly buffed up opponent. His body crackles with golden lightning. Desmond glares right back, more determined than ever. The massive Hydra lunges, jaws wide open, ready to swallow him whole. Bam! Desmond meets the attack head-on, landing a solid punch right on the monster's snout as his friends scream his name in a total panic. His hand, glowing and overflowing with power, stops the beast's fangs dead in their tracks, just an inch from his face. A massive shockwave erupts from the impact with insane force. Desmond prees the Hydra's massive jaws open with his bare hands. In a mind-blowing display of strength, Desmond twists the monster's head and slams it into the ground with insane ferocity, his eyes glowing gold. With an enraged roar, Desmond smashes the Hydra's head into the ground again, shattering the cavern floor. The Hydra staggers back, screeching in pain from the colossal blow. But Desmond gives it zero breathing room, pressing the advantage and keeping the creature on the defensive with pure, raw power. He stomps his foot and launches forward, becoming a golden blur streaking straight for the monster with a look of absolute focus. Desmond cocks back his fist, channeling an absurd amount of energy into it. Wham! He lands a devastating punch to the Hydra's side, the impact echoing throughout the entire cave. The Hydra coughs up a river of blood, completely stunned by the sheer power of that hit. From a distance, a shocked Ren can't even process what he's seeing, while Garand asks in disbelief if he really just punched the Hydra. The Hydra retaliates, firing a massive purple beam, but Desmond doesn't even flinch, ready for whatever it throws at him. Desmond narrows his eyes, determined, his body crackling with golden energy as he faces the attack. And just as the Hydra brings down its enormous claws, Desmond braces for the killing blow. But in a ridiculously epic show of strength, Desmond catches the beast's claws with his bare hands, stopping the attack cold. With a massive effort, he digs his feet into the ground, his power cracking the earth around him. Desmond lets out a battle cry that shakes the very foundations of the dungeon, pushing his aura to the absolute limit. He lifts the Hydra's colossal leg, getting ready to toss the beast. With a brutal heave, Desmond throws the entire Hydra over his shoulder and slams it into the freaking ground. Panting heavily, Desmond catches his breath, his golden aura still swirling around him. Ren and Garand are completely losing their minds, with Ren stammering something about how he just threw that giant body, and Garand yelling that the Hydra can't handle an attack that OP. The Hydra gets back on its feet, facing Desmond with its terrifying maw. A sinister purple aura begins to gather around the spikes on its back. Dorothy, sensing the shift in the mana flow, yells that things are about to get real. As the monster's tail begins to glow, a mysterious voice warns that this is the Hydra's ultimate skill, the Mortal Tail Swipe. The attack unleashes a brutal shockwave, causing the cave to collapse as Desmond's friends dive for cover. Through the dust and falling rocks, it looks like the Hydra is finally down. But suddenly, its 6 red eyes flare with an ominous light, making it clear this fight isn't over yet. Desmond launches himself into the air, charging straight for the beast's head to deliver the final blow. With his fist glowing like a supernova, he screams Adel's name, pouring every last bit of energy he has into one final punch. The finisher, the one that ends it all, connects, creating a spectacular explosion of golden light. The monster's head is completely obliterated by the sheer force of the impact. The Hydra's giant body begins to crumble, disintegrating into motes of light. When the chaos finally dies down, the beast's gigantic body lies still and totally wrecked on the ground. His party members watch from a safe distance as the dust settles. Desmond stands over his defeated enemy, panting as his golden power-up aura finally begins to fade. All of a sudden, a purple light erupts from the monster's corpse, and the group wonders if Desmond actually managed to clear the quest. The light intensifies, stunning everyone, including Desmond, as the monster's form begins to transform. The monstrous transformation reverses, its claws dissolving back into human hands and feet. When the magical dust settles, a human figure lies where the Hydra once was. It's Adele. Seeing her body revert to its base form, Ren lets out a yell, totally freaking out as he realizes Adele's transformation skill just got cancelled. Desmond looks down at his former teammate, whispering Adele's name as his mana hits 0. In a collective sigh of relief, Dorothy, Ren, and Garand realize they've finally cleared the quest. Ren, totally hyped, congratulates Desmond, while Adele, with her HP in the red, weakly celebrates their perfect victory. Desmond lets himself have a tired little laugh. Totally relieved, the raid is finally over. Boom, his heart's pounding like crazy, thinking, mission complete, everything's under control. But that relief goes straight down the drain when he realizes the brutal backlash from his layering technique is about to kick in. Desmond screams in agony as his body starts to collapse. System windows pop up, detailing catastrophic injuries from torn ligaments to a freaking spinal cord injury. He's just standing there for a sec, his body trembling on the verge of a game over. Thud. Desmond slams into the ground as Ren screams his name, totally freaking out. His party members rush over to him in a complete panic, yelling his name like lunatics, with no clue what the hell to do. Lying on the cold floor, Desmond's vision fades to black as he thinks, no freaking way. He's lying there, completely paralyzed, thinking he can't move a single muscle and feeling the extreme pain debuff consume him. While his party desperately searches for a healer, Desmond's hand spasms, a tiny sign of life. Suddenly, the entire party looks up in shock, sensing an unscripted presence. Adele gets to her feet, screaming at the top of her lungs, accusing Desmond of being a traitor and trying to take her out. As Adele flies into a rage, Ren yells right back, and Dorothy looks down, overwhelmed by the bad vibes. Dorothy then totally chews Ren out, asking how he can be so clueless and not get what Desmond is going through. Crying, Dorothy yells that Desmond could have just used his ranged support spells instead of going in for melee. Adele, completely confused, asks what she's talking about. She reveals that the layering technique is a forbidden spell because it completely wrecks the user's body. Dorothy, sobbing, explains that Desmond had zero reason to face Adele head-on. He could have won easily, just by hiding and spamming spells until Adele ran out of HP. She clarifies that this technique is so destructive it's banned by the Magic Council itself. Dorothy admits she thought Desmond would use the forbidden technique against Adele, but instead, he chose to sacrifice himself, leaving Adele speechless and completely floored. She explains that Desmond went head-on because he was trying to save Adele like a real party member. Through her tears, Dorothy blurts out that because Adele doesn't get what teamwork means, she kicked out Desmond, who was a true comrade. Garand steps forward and begs Adele, "Dude, please, don't make him suffer anymore." And there lies Desmond, motionless, his face completely wrecked, showing the true cost of his sacrifice. Suddenly, the boot of a mysterious figure steps into the frame, looming over the broken party. Tick. A silver-haired guy looks down on the scene with disgust, calling it a waste of time. He scoffs at their soap opera drama, saying the cure for Adele is a joke if its effects can be removed that easily. Crap. Ren's pupils dilate as he recognizes the new guy in sheer panic. Engulfed in a seriously ominous purple aura, the silver-haired dude unsheathes his sword, saying with a smirk that finishing off these noobs won't even be a warm-up. Ha! He unleashes an insane wave of purple energy that sends Desmond's comrades flying. The entire party gets sent tumbling across the cave floor from that totally overpowered attack. Desmond watches it all from the ground, filled with a rage he can't unleash. As the silver-haired guy declares their game over, Desmond can only watch, paralyzed with fear. The dude launches a massive beam of energy, ordering Desmond to crawl over and die. Trapped in the swirling purple vortex, Desmond screams in pain. No, his eyes fly open, scared stiff, as the attack heads straight for him. Wham! At the last freaking second, Adele dives in front of Desmond, tanking the full impact of the attack. Desmond is left completely stunned, in disbelief at his former comrade's sacrifice. The silver-haired dude watches as a wrecked Adele, his mana totally bottomed out, reaches a hand out to him. His one purple eye is radiating some serious killer intent. In a flash of foresight, Desmond, standing over the Hydra's corpse, demands to know why Adele just went berserk. Then, Adele's face appears, cracking a faint smile. Another premonition flashes, showing Adele jumping in to shield him. Broken by the shock, Desmond roars Adele's name, demanding to know why he'd sacrifice himself for him. Sprawled in a pool of his own blood, Adele weakly tells him to shut his trap. With his last breath, he explains that party members always have each other's backs, even if it means taking the final hit. The silver-haired guy lands a savage punch, right in poor, already injured Adele's gut. As Adal coughs up a waterfall of blood, Desmond rages at the attacker, calling him despicable scum. The silver-haired dude just scoffs, saying he doesn't waste time listening to a corpse, totally ignoring Desmond's plea for Adal's life. Desmond gasps as a brilliant blue mana explodes nearby, erupting into a colossal pillar of arcane power. What the? The silver-haired guy spins around, totally shook by the sudden third partying. Two female warriors with OP auras appear, one of them blindfolded, and she congratulates Desmond, telling him they'll take it from here. The silver-haired dude instantly recognizes the new arrivals, Ra, Fim, and Cynthia, and his expression is priceless. His blood runs cold when he realizes they're S-rank hunters. Their combo spell could have nuked 5 hydras. Panicking, he whips out a syringe, but the chick in white armor warns him with an ice-cold voice not to even think about moving. A mysterious warrior, decked out in head-to-toe black armor and a horned helmet, materializes to face them. The imposing figure's horned helmet seems to glare at them in silence. A chill, long-haired blonde dude appears, telling the two girls not to interrupt his reunion with his subordinate. The sinister silver-haired guy has Desmond in a chokehold, threatening to end him with a fast-acting poison if anyone so much as twitches. Zap. The psycho laughs like a maniac, bragging that Desmond would be pushing up daisies before anyone could even blink. Suddenly, a flash of blue mana slams into him, leaving him stunned. A trickle of blood escapes his lips as he staggers, completely blindsided by the sneak attack. Zap. Slash. An arc of glowing energy tears right through his body. In that exact moment, Desmond's eyes fly open as he connects the dots on a critical piece of intel. He remembers wondering if a certain girl's nickname was just because she was a total smoke show, but now he gets that it had nothing to do with her looks. The revelation hits him like a flash freeze spell. The silver-haired dude is sent flying by the raw force of the blue energy. A white-haired warrior in armor stands over him, coldly telling the filthy scrub to shut his mouth. Lying on the ground, defeated and in a pool of his own blood, the guy is living proof of her overwhelming power level. Desmond gets it now. Her nickname is also a status effect, reflecting her absolute and total lack of mercy. Seeing her stone-cold expression, he finally understands the meaning of her title, the Iceblood Princess. The girl in the mask and red cape laughs, declaring that this loser is beyond saving. As the Iceblood Princess watches, the masked girl, Rafim, throws some shade at the princess about her childhood friend, but she just ignores it and rushes over to Desmond on the ground, checking if he's okay. While the princess promises to use her healing magic on him, Desmond feels like a total F-rank noob. Realizing the fight was over in a hot second, once she and Rafim showed up, his spirit just breaks, thinking he's not leveled up enough to keep their childhood promise, to clear an S-rank dungeon together. And just like that, the whirlwind of vengeance that had consumed them all finally ended in front of a massive castle. The conflict was over, closing a brutal chapter in their academy lives. Later, while recovering in the infirmary, Desmond is surrounded by his party members, including the princess, who's trying to spoon-feed him while he insists it's not a big deal. A loud, magenta-haired girl bursts in with her whole crew, announcing she's here to feed the poor patient, making things even more chaotic. Desmond confirms that 2 of his comrades are good as new, thanks to the princess's OP healing magic. Meanwhile, another adventurer is totally mind-blown, having heard their injuries were supposed to be incurable by any normal means. Learning that the commander used a forbidden sacrificial technique, Desmond realizes the man gave up his own mobility to save his life, and feels a massive guilt debuff. The commander just smiles kindly, correcting him. He didn't do it because of him, but for him. He explains that as a commander, it's his sacred duty to protect the members of his squad, and since he's hanging up his adventurer's cape anyway, it doesn't matter if his mobility is totally nerfed. A girl with glasses just sighs, looking completely over it. Desmond complains that the commander's daily grind is going to be a total nightmare, and then admits they let him off the hook for using a forbidden technique. His party members insist it was purely self-defense, while the commander tells Desmond to just chill and not overthink his stats. The commander explains that the guild's top brass preferred to save a prodigy with S-tier potential, like Desmond, over a washed-up, semi-retired old-timer like him. Desmond is totally floored by this new info drop. Turns out, his commander's crippling debuff might not be permanent. He learns that legendary-grade treasures and artifacts with insane power levels are still lying dormant in the dungeon's depths. The commander gives Desmond a new quest. If he really feels guilty, he has to find a very specific artifact for him, saying that's what real party synergy is all about. With some next-level determination, Desmond accepts the quest, vowing to find that item. His party mates hype him up, all ready to provide backup. Meanwhile, the princess is totally stressed, wondering what the heck her role in this party even is. Smiling from the bed, the commander tells Desmond he's assigning him a high-rank quest, effective immediately. The scene shifts to a guild hall. packed to the rafters with adventurers and knights. The crowd is buzzing with whispers, on edge about a major announcement that's about to drop. Some have already heard the news about their commander and are freaking out over the future of the 5th Brigade. A woman on a balcony yells for everyone to quiet down. She confirms their commander is in the infirmary, and, right after, announces a new mission, much to the complete shock of the entire brigade. Desmond Strife is officially named the acting commander until the main one recovers. Facing the stunned crowd, a nervous Desmond admits he's a total noob at this, but he swears he'll put his life on the line and give it his all for them. His gaze burns with a determination hotter than dragon's fire. To his shock, several brigade members start shouting their support. They yell that they know he's the real deal and they'll personally handle anyone who complains. Desmond stands on the balcony, completely blown away by this unexpected vote of confidence. He turns and sees his party mates cheering him on for his new leadership role. Peeking through a door, Rafim is already totally hyped for the next dungeon raid. As the princess watches nervously, Rafim playfully scoops up the blushing princess, who's secretly dying to join the expedition. Meanwhile, Desmond takes off with his party. A bandaged hand waves goodbye from the crowd. The magenta-haired girl blows a dramatic kiss to Desmond, to the absolute rage of the blonde next to her. Desmond walks forward looking like he's on an S-rank mission, while the two girls continue their comedic bickering behind him. He glances over at a window and sees a surprisingly peaceful and happy domestic scene. In a hospital room, Desmond rests with an oxygen mask on as a worried Ren and Garand watch over him. Desmond wakes up, his eyes fluttering open as he carefully touches the mask. A flashback shows a younger, more cheerful Desmond, waving with a smile from ear to ear. In the past, Desmond and a little blonde girl stand before an imposing building, eagerly deciding to enter. In another hospital room, a woman with glasses stands beside a long-haired, bandaged man resting in bed. Elsewhere, 3 small figures stand at the entrance of a massive, sinister cave, and one of them speaks. A younger Desmond, leading his party which includes a blonde girl and a dwarf, rallies them to enter. The blonde girl in his party, super excited, offers to cast a support buff on everyone before they go in. In another scene, a white-haired man named Jin lies motionless in a pool of his own blood, on a shattered floor. A single tear falls from Jin's eye as a trickle of blood escapes from the corner of his mouth. A woman dressed in purple approaches the fallen Jin, telling him he's a lost cause as she prepares a green healing spell. She unleashes a potent emerald magic, enveloping Jin's body in a torrent of healing energy. Cough. Jin coughs as the healing mana courses through his body and his eyes begin to open. As he's being healed, Jin internally swears revenge, declaring that he will not forgive the woman who humiliated him. The healer asks if he's found someone worthwhile, and Jin clenches his fist, confirming that he has. A fleeting memory of Desmond unleashing his powerful enchantment magic flashes through Jin's mind. He remembers the enchanter's full name, Desmond Strife. A mysterious woman's eyes glow as another white-haired man is consumed by a destructive red aura. The man screams in pure agony, begging some girl named Kate to stop using her recovery magic as his body was being torn to shreds. Kate, wrapped in a malevolent red aura, casually says she overdid it again while looking at the bloody remains. She smirks, thinking to herself that the absent Desmond Kuhn is a pretty interesting guy. The scene cuts to the exterior of an imposing building, identified as the Chevalier Garden. From the outside, we see an exhausted Desmond, buried under a mountain of paperwork at his desk, totally overwhelmed. He rests his gloved hand on a document, lamenting that this work is never-ending. His dark-haired vice-captain slams down another stack of papers that nearly hits the ceiling and asks if it's for tomorrow. Adjusting her glasses, she corrects him, saying all of it is due today. Ah! A scream of pure frustration echoes from one of the Chevalier Garden's towers. The vice-captain watches Desmond work, commenting that he's doing pretty well for a rookie in the position. Desmond explains that even though Cynthia's intervention saved his skin, he has to wear a conversion bracelet that nullifies his buff spells if he overuses them. He narrates that he's been appointed temporary captain of the 5th Brigade. His new captain duties are a total grind. He's got to map out all the dungeon delves for his squad. Plus, he has to prep and turn in reports for the captain's council meetings. On top of that, he's also got to play talent scout, evaluating all the rising stars and recommending them for rank-ups to other squads. Desmond, totally itching for some action, asks his vice-captain when the next sparring session is, and she tells him it's in 4 days. He starts thinking about how much he's leveled up since that throwdown with Adele, grinding like crazy and finally figuring out how to cast buff magic on himself. He smirks, thinking his INT stat is still a big fat 0, right when Ren and Dorothy bust into his office all hyped up. Dorothy totally freaks, reminding Ren they're in the captain's quarters and can't just barge in like that. Desmond just tells her to chill, happy to see his party members. Leaning on his desk, Ren is all like, "Yo, let's ditch this boring paperwork and go clear a dungeon." The vice captain totally chews Ren out for the suggestion, while Desmond's staring at a document looking super grim. Ren shoves a report in his face, pointing out their number of dungeon clears this month is pathetically low, which could totally land the vice captain in hot water. Cut to the dungeon entrance, where Desmond is getting ready to channel a spell, his staff glowing with green mana. Inside the dungeon, he unleashes a massive wave of buff magic to power up his party. He's casting targeted buffs on each member as they take on a whole goblin mob. With the battle cleared, Desmond thinks about how much his party's stats have grown, while Ren is totally hyping up their win. As they step out of the dungeon, Desmond's just thinking about how everyone's stats are climbing, and Ren declares the whole quest was a total cakewalk. Just then, Cynthia, the silver-haired knight, shows up and congratulates Desmond for grinding so hard as captain. She tells him his name's been making some serious waves lately, but he just gets all flustered and brushes it off. Cynthia tells him he needs to have more confidence, playfully claiming him as her Dascal. A party on horseback gallops away from the castle gates, heading off toward a new quest. Desmond and the silver-haired knight, Cynthia, just stare at each other, totally shocked. As Desmond yells out her name, Ren's like, "Who's that old fossil?" And Dorothy immediately shushes her. The guy in the blue suit is identified as the founder of the Shio Allier Garden. Ren and Dorothy recognize him as Viscount Rudark, calling him, like, the ultimate VIP. Viscount Rudark turns to Cynthia, asking for a status report on a certain project. With a polite smile, Cynthia assures him they're searching for it around the clock. The Viscount just smiles back, telling her he's got her back. Then he turns to Desmond, and recognizes him as the new captain of the 5th Squad, saying he has high expectations. A completely starstruck Desmond can barely stammer out a "yes, sir." Desmond and the crew watch as Viscount Rudark and his entourage ride off. Super curious, Desmond asks Cynthia what that whole business with the Viscount was about. Cynthia explains that her mission is to clear the S-rank dungeon known as the Great Navel. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a blindfolded woman with long white hair playfully laughs off a question, calling it silly. The scene cuts to a quiet, peaceful-looking town street. The woman and her party are standing in front of a massive gate, noticing the eerie silence. She wonders if they've actually hit the right coordinates. As her guards keep watch, an older and jacked-up dude confirms that yep, they've found the Black Bracer's hideout. The blindfolded woman speculates that the Black Bracer might have elixirs capable of human body transmutation. A glitchy premonition flashes some high-level mob and its terrified prey, making her wonder about these monsters. She decides she's got to round them all up, before they can pop those forbidden elixirs. The jack dude clenches his gauntlet, declaring his strat will wipe out any threat. With a loud times crunch asterisk, the massive wooden doors get blown wide open. Asterisk, boom, asterisk. The dude just smashes through them, yelling something about excusing his minor intrusion. Inside a tavern, everyone inside is totally shook by the OP entrance. As they strut in, the blindfolded girl sarcastically asks if he could have been, like, a little less extra. Asterisk, clang. Asterisk, a heavy armored boot slams into the wooden floor. Rocking a seriously insane power aura, the old man smirks, retorting that his method was a total big brain play. As he squares up, some random NPC in the crowd recognizes him as the legendary Zex Iron Arms. Asterisk GRRR, asterisk, a huge lycanthrope mob lunges forward, ready to totally wreck Zex. Zex just laughs in its face, totally flexing, and gets ready to shut the beast down. In a blink and you'll miss it move, Zex sidesteps the lycanthrope's lunge without breaking a sweat. Sizing up his opponent's power level, Zex coldly remarks that it looks like the creature put all its stat points into agility. 3 low-level dudes from the tavern start cheering for Zex, yelling at him to land the finishing blow on the lycanthrope. Zex's gauntleted hand crackles with golden mana as he charges up a legendary tier attack. He unleashes his skill, landing a massive crit on the charging lycanthrope. The lycanthrope's eyes go vacant the second the attack connects, its HP bar hitting 0 instantly. Zex turns to some terrified bystander, telling him it looks like he's not getting the picture. He raises a hand, his fingers wrapped in crackling yellow energy. Zex drops a bombshell, declaring that he's no frontline tank, but a combat mage. His fist glows with some serious DPS, driving home a statement that leaves everyone's jaws on the floor. A pair of purple heels steps into the frame, followed by a pair of dark boots, striding in with purpose. The blindfolded girl unleashes a torrent of dark purple mana at an off-screen target. She gives props to a cloaked figure for their skill in dodging the attack. The blindfolded girl smirks, totally confident, hovering in the air with some sick-looking red energy wings. She watches the mysterious woman down below. The raid was a total success, with a bunch of trash mobs defeated and tied up under guard. The lycanthrope is totally KO'd on the floor in a pool of red. its body riddled with holes. One of the guards nervously asks Zex if maybe he didn't go a little overboard on the monster. Zex turns with a little smirk, politely greeting someone off-screen as Larapim. The girl with the blindfold and red mana wings descends a staircase, advising someone that they might want to dial it back a notch. A white-haired old man declares there's no mercy for villains, causing the blindfolded girl to sweat drop. In a wrecked room, someone asks about a woman who got away. The reply confirms she totally ghosted, but they've figured out her identity. A four-pointed purple emblem glows with a seriously sus aura above a white-haired figure. The blindfolded woman smirks, recognizing the all-too-familiar guild crest. In a sepia-toned flashback, a curly-haired woman sits alone in a cell. The old man informs the blindfolded girl that they managed to get some high-tier intel. An ancient-looking map is shown, with several locations marked with an X and a blue sigil. The old man and the blindfolded woman share a concerned look. The old man narrows his eyes, totally focused, flanked by his guards. He reveals that the map seems to be a guide to a dungeon called the Five Nightmares. The scene cuts to a massive stone castle, a few days after the raid on the Black Bracelet's hideout. In a council meeting, a dude in a blue suit at the head of the table poses a question. The guy in the blue suit demands to know what urgent business Cynthia has brought before them. Cynthia addresses him as Rudark, while a red-haired woman at her side just watches the scene unfold. From her seat, the blindfolded woman orders the old man, Zex, to show Rudark the map. Asterisk, twap, asterisk. Zex slaps the map down on the massive council table for everyone to see. The map unrolls across the table, revealing all its markings. Rudark stares at the document, his expression a mix of total disbelief, asking what the heck this is. Cynthia smirks, explaining it's loot they recovered from the Black Bracelet's hideout they raided. Then she starts explaining the location it points to. It appears to be a dungeon where 5 keys to enter the Grand Navel are hidden. Desmond looks completely stunned when he hears about the 5 keys. The red-haired woman takes in the news with a total poker face. A guy with teal hair freaks out, demanding they explain it more clearly. The redhead slams her fist on the table, totally bugging out. An S-rank dungeon like that actually exists? Des just confirms. For real. He says he's been grinding through ancient arcane texts to verify it. We get a close-up on the weathered pages of the grimoires he was poring over. Asterisk tense music swells times the whole castle's got this super intense mana signature. Then, bam! We cut to the Academy's quest board, plastered with new missions and looking for party posters. After the meeting wraps, Desmond and Cynthia are walking down a stone corridor. Cynthia's still looking totally wrecked, obviously still bugging out over everything that went down. Desmond totally picks up on Cynthia's dark aura. He sighs, thinking, can't blame her for being so on edge after that whole scene Rudark pulled. A voice calls out, "Yo, Des, Cynthia," and they both spin around. It's Fim, the blindfolded girl, who basically just materialized out of thin air. Fim apologizes for ambushing them when things are so chaotic, but she's about to drop some major intel about a few illegal elixirs. Desmond and Cynthia are totally stunned by the news. Cynthia's eyes go wide as it clicks. "You're not talking about asterisk those times elixirs, are you?" she asks, totally freaking out. Fim's expression goes grim, confirming Cynthia's worst fears. She spills that they're the exact same body mutation elixirs Jin used on Adele. The three of them just stand there in the hallway, the weight of this new info drop hitting them hard. Fim brings up the werewolf they threw down with back at the enemy's lair. She points out that the lycanthrope's transformation was way more stable than the Hydra's were. Then Fim drops a chilling theory. What if the enemy has perfected the mass production of those elixirs? Cynthia looks horrified and whispers, "No freaking way." Desmond is just speechless, hand over his mouth, his mind completely blown. He starts spiraling, picturing a nightmare scenario where they're just pumping out those monsters. He imagines some gross, multi-eyed demon, and the thought alone makes him want to lose his lunch. Cynthia's in denial, arguing that the enemy shouldn't have the labs or the skilled personnel to craft such forbidden artifacts. The camera pulls back, implying they must have a backer. Fim, our blindfolded intel source, confirms it. Someone is definitely colluding with the enemy. She confirms her suspicions, revealing that back at the lair, she saw the face of someone she recognized. A flashback shows a mysterious woman in a cloak, arms spread wide against a purple, glowing backdrop. Cynthia asks who it is, and Fim explains she's an outsider, not part of the Black Bracelet League, but someone Cynthia should recognize too. The name of this mysterious group is revealed, the Five Fingers. Desmond is totally clueless and just straight up admits he has no idea who they are. He kinda sheepishly asks for a rundown, and Fim looks at him like he's been living under a rock. She starts to spill the tea on this infamous group of criminals. She describes the Five Fingers as a party of elite, S-rank adventurers who are also notorious, high-level criminals. As the group's silhouettes appear on screen, Fim IDs, the woman she saw as Kate Sophia. A close-up reveals Kate, a girl with long, dark hair and a super smug smirk. Fim adds that Kate is also a god-tier alchemist. Fim explains that the Five Fingers totally dropped off the grid years ago after their leader went missing. Desmond looks deep in thought, trying to process this heavy new intel. The three of them just stand there, the tension so thick you could cut it with a dagger. Cynthia, her mind racing, starts to lay out a potential plan. She proposes they should try talking to times him asterisk, which leaves Desmond completely floored. Totally confused, Desmond asks who in the world she's talking about. Fim just looks at Cynthia and says quietly, "It's your call." A close-up reveals a massive, ornate golden artifact, a key glowing faintly on Cynthia's belt. Desmond's eyes go wide with dawning horror as he realizes who she wants to visit. Cynthia just gives a short, determined, "Yeah," confirming his absolute worst fears. He flashes back to a memory of some seriously sketchy-looking dude with long, dark, messy hair and a crazy intense stare. Desmond realizes they're talking about asking another enhancement mage for help. The scene cuts to a peaceful sunny forest. Asterisk thwack, asterisk. A powerful sword slams into a tree. We see Ren, the blonde girl, going all out in her training while another blonde woman watches from afar. A quest window pops up, summarizing the current mission. Find 5 keys for the Dungeon of the Five Nightmares in order to gain entry to the Grand Navel. A voiceover notes that the entire city is buzzing about the Dungeon of the Five Nightmares. Ren, totally hyped, suggests to Dorothy and Garand that their party should totally try to clear that new horror-class dungeon. She grins, flashing her fangs, totally psyched about a real challenge. Dorothy, on the other hand, is worried about the dungeon's difficulty, pointing out that it's an A+ rank, which Garand confirms with a dead serious look. Ren, all cocky, says with Desmond on their team they'll totally crush it. But Dorothy starts to say something, trailing off. Dorothy hits her with the hard truth. With Desmond in the party, even B-rank dungeons were pushing their absolute limit. Ren just blushes, totally silenced by the reality check. But she bounces right back, yelling that an A-rank dungeon ain't no thing. Dorothy just smirks while Garand looks completely stunned. Now totally fired up, we see Ren going all out, screaming, "Time to grind for EXP, let's go." Watching her, Garand just nods, thinking that leveling up is a perfectly logical goal. We see Ren's silhouette as she focuses on her goal of breaking past her limits. Garand adds that they all need to get serious, so they don't end up being dead weight for Desmond again. Dorothy agrees, but her expression is filled with doubt. As Ren grinds through her training, she keeps telling herself that she can't be a liability for the party. Her face is set with pure determination, vowing she won't be dead weight for the party. Then, out of nowhere, some mysterious dude with a crazy long white ponytail just appears in the clearing, not making a single sound. Ren spins around, her jaw on the floor and her eyes sparkling with total awe. Snapping out of it, she points her sword at the stranger, demanding he state his name and business. The guy just stares her down with these piercing blue eyes, calmly brushing his hair back. His gaze is so intense it feels like it could see right through her, and his aura is on a whole other level. In the quiet of the forest, leaves drift down on the breeze. The white-haired man starts dropping some serious wisdom. If you max out your speed stat, it becomes a blade that can slice through anything. In a flash of blue mana, he moves with some insane speed skill, slicing through the falling leaves. A totally gobsmacked Ren just watches the whole spectacle, counting to 10 without even taking a breath. As the perfectly sliced leaves flutter to the ground, Ren is blown away by his insane technique, and the man just says she has sharp eyes. Ren asks the old-timer who the heck he is, and he introduces himself as Cassandra, just a simple hermit. She repeats, confused, "A hermit?" But her confusion quickly turns into a brilliant idea when she realizes. That means he's totally free. Ren bows deeply, all excited, begging Cassandra to be her master and teach her his sword arts. But he just stone-cold tells her he hasn't agreed to anything yet. As they walk, Cassandra asks Ren why she decided to become an adventurer. Sitting on a rock, Ren starts to spill her backstory, explaining she's the third daughter of a fallen noble house. A flashback shows a younger Ren with a wooden sword, remembering how she'd always skip the stuffy high society parties to grind her swordsmanship skills instead. In another flashback, we see how much she loved stories about adventurers taking down S-rank monsters like dragons. But her parents totally shot down her dreams, basically ignoring everything she wanted, insisting that kind of life wasn't for a proper lady. With a sad but determined look, the young Ren continues her story. She confesses she ran off to Bristol to level up, and finally get her family to acknowledge her strength. But now, her main quest has changed. With tears in her eyes, Ren reveals her new goal, to become the shield for her party, because she feels like she's just dragging them down. Cassandra's voice echoes through the woods, suggesting she start running. Ren is totally confused by this, as Cassandra tells her what she really needs is to run 1,000 times, every single day. But far from being discouraged, Ren's face totally lights up, and she says she'll start right away. She gives him a happy pat on the shoulder and thanks her new master, who tells her to hold on a sec, because it looks like the reality of his request is just starting to sink in. The cold, hard reality of the training quest hits her like a ton of bricks and she screams, 1,000 times? You can practically see the steam coming out of her ears as she processes the insane grind ahead of her. We see a notebook with a progress chart, tracking her gains from the new training regimen. During a sparring session, Ren fiercely parries the attack from Cassandra's twin staffs with her own wooden staff. Cassandra demonstrates his technique, counting 7, 8, 9, as he slices through more leaves while a totally exhausted Ren watches on. Her eyes sparkle with triumph when she manages to slice 9 leaves all by herself. She turns excitedly to Cassandra, asking if he saw her awesome accomplishment. He confirms that he saw and congratulates her, saying that at this rate, hitting 11 leaves will be a piece of cake, much to her delight. Then Cassandra drops a bombshell. Starting tomorrow, he can't train her anymore, leaving Ren in total shock and demanding to know why. Ren has a comically dramatic meltdown when Cassandra calls her Lin. He encourages her, saying her speed will evolve into an incredibly powerful weapon, but warns her never to forget the fundamentals, looking thoughtful. Cassandra starts to spill some backstory, but then totally clams up and lets it go, leaving a confused Lin just staring at him. Bouncing back, Lin, all hyped up, invites Cassandra to grab some victory chow, insisting it's on her. The scene cuts to a tavern under a starlit sky. Inside, Lin notices Cassandra's whole aura feels different. He's rocking a hood now for stealth mode. He explains it's his low-profile gear, and Lin totally roasts him, saying it's not much different from his hair that's always covering his face. Lin asks why he's even in Bristol, and he reveals he used to run a martial arts dojo back in the East, but he had to shut it down years ago. He goes on to explain he came to town to help out a benefactor, and Lin nods, picking up what he's putting down. Lin gets quiet, processing this new info drop. Cassandra hits her with some harsh reality. In this world, the weak are basically cannon fodder, and you have to grind and level up to survive. Lin clenches her fist, vowing to get way stronger, and thanks him, accidentally calling him Dad Sandra before quickly correcting herself to Cassandra. Their meal, a simple but solid spread of sausages and bread, hits the table. Lin absolutely demolishes her food, chatting a mile a minute with the still-hooded Cassandra. A small, gentle smile touches Cassandra's lips as he listens. As they step out of the tavern under a full moon, Cassandra mentions the meal was top-notch. A beaming Lin asks him to train her again sometime, but Cassandra just looks down, silent, rocking a pensive look. As Cassandra melts away into the night, Lin waves him off with boundless energy. The final shot closes in on Cassandra's departing footsteps, his sandaled foot stepping off the main path. Under the cloak of night, a hooded figure stands before a timber-framed building. The mysterious figure, who turns out to be Cassandra, silently pads down a dark, cobblestone alley. He stops. His journey through the quiet streets seems to have reached its destination. Inside, Kate Sophia greets him with a super smug smirk, calling him out for being late and asking just how far behind schedule he is. Slipping off his hood, Cassandra reveals his shock of white hair and explains he got sidetracked, taking a trip down memory lane. As he adjusts his collar, a dark and intricate tattoo is visible on the back of his neck. A close-up highlights the spiky, star-like design of the mysterious sigil. Kate is totally unimpressed and just brushes off his excuse, telling him she's putting him on the grind anyway. Cassandra's piercing blue eyes narrow with some serious resolve. The scene cuts to a bright and bustling town street where a bunch of adventurers are milling about. Desmond walks solo, sighing with a heavy heart, totally stressing about how to drop the bomb on his party members. And a quest notice spread over a map officially announces the start of the fifth terror, the subjugation of the 5 nightmares. The key players for this high-level quest are revealed: Cynthia, Larapim, ZX, Veronica, and Herman. Inside a grand hall, Desmond stands before Cynthia and a seriously ticked-off looking Zex. Cynthia announces that Desmond will be joining Zex's party for the upcoming mission. The news leaves Zex absolutely shook. Desmond agrees to go, remembering the Viscount's pep talk and wondering out loud if a D-rank adventurer like him can even get access to the quest area. Cynthia explains that since the 5 nightmares are outside the guild's jurisdiction, the entry requirements are wide open for now, and Desmond gets it. Zex's face hardens as he grinds his teeth, his expression screaming hell no. Zex totally loses it, shouting that his party doesn't need a support mage, especially not some low-rank scrub, leaving both Desmond and Cynthia floored. Cynthia stands by her decision, admitting Desmond is still a bit green, but she vouches for his skill set and asks Zex to keep him safe. Zex just looks away, still clearly conflicted, as Cynthia waits for his answer on pins and needles. He finally caves, though Desmond can totally feel the salty vibes and his reluctance, as Cynthia thanks Zex for his cooperation. When Desmond shyly brings up that he has party members, Zex completely blows a gasket, screaming that he's already stuck on babysitting duty and there's no way in hell he's carrying any more dead weight. Totally defeated, Desmond has no choice but to accept the terms. His hope of bringing his crew along is completely shot. The scene cuts to a tavern at dusk, its sign glowing warmly against the twilight sky. Desmond shoves the door open, walking in with slumped shoulders, looking totally wiped. Inside, Ren spots him immediately, giving him an enthusiastic wave and calling for Des to come join their table. Seeing his crew, a small, weary smile finally breaks through on Desmond's face. The tavern is buzzing, with a barmaid weaving through the crowd with tankards of ale. Desmond slumps down with his party, hesitating, trying to figure out how to drop this bombshell. He finally tells them he's heading to the fifth terror of the five nightmares. Heck yeah. Ren grins with a delight so fierce you can see her fangs, totally hyped by the news, and exclaiming that this is the raid they've been waiting for. Grand is just as pumped, instantly agreeing they'll clear the dungeon together. Dorothy, however, stays quiet, a thoughtful and reserved look on her face. Desmond clarifies that this time, only a select party can go, including the brigade captains, are permitted to join. He finishes by telling everyone else to wait here, leaving Ren completely floored. Ren slams her fist on the table, demanding to know why the hell they can't go. As Desmond explains that this mission is on a whole other level, he tells them the destination is an Ultra A-rank dungeon, and he flat out refuses to throw them into that kind of danger. Her friends listen in dead silence. The weight of his words sinks in, and a hurt Ren lowers her gaze, asking if he just sees her as dead weight. Her question catches Desmond completely off guard, leaving him shocked and speechless. Dorothy tries to talk some sense into Ren, calling out her name in protest. Grand steps in, telling the crew he gets Desmond's logic and that they gotta admit their stats just aren't high enough for this run. With tears welling up, Ren pushes back, arguing that all their grinding was for this very moment, begging him to let them join the raid just this one time. Desmond is totally torn up over his call, admitting he'll barely have enough mana to protect himself, let alone carry the whole party. He clutches his chest, freaking out and yelling that he can't stand the thought of watching his squad get wiped. His party just stares back, their faces a mix of disappointment and understanding. Dorothy gently reminds Desmond of the advice he gave them earlier, about not trying to solo carry the entire burden, and to lean on his party members. She adds thoughtfully that she knows he only made this tough call because he's a total softie who actually cares about them. Dorothy pleads with him, with just one condition. He has to come back from this quest alive, no matter what. Through the window, his voice cracks, explaining that he's a core member of their raid party. With his guilt stat totally maxed out, all Desmond can do is offer a legit apology to his crew. That night, Desmond preps his gear for the mission, stressing about whether he'll just be dead weight for Zex tomorrow. While packing his bag, he spots a potion, remembering how Ren and Dorothy gave it to him, jokingly calling it some weird concoction that smelled like damp laundry. He cracks a smile, touched by their weird but thoughtful gift, but it vanishes when Ren's gut punch of a question, "Are we just holding you back?" echoes in his head. He sits alone, torn between wanting to bring his friends and accepting the brutal reality of the mission's difficulty. Suddenly, a sharp knock at his door shatters his dark thoughts. He opens it to find Cynthia, already geared up in a white cape and battle armor, waiting for him. Completely thrown off by the surprise visit, Desmond stammers, asking what's going on. Looking a little nervous herself, Cynthia quickly asks if he's done prepping for tomorrow's raid. Blushing a bit, Desmond confirms he's all set. She eagerly declares that she's good to go, too, which leaves Desmond wondering if she really came all this way just to tell him that. The air gets thick with a super cute but awkward silence between them. She explains that Larafim sent her to check on his status, an excuse Desmond seems to totally buy. Mustering her courage, she nervously invites him out for a walk as a warm-up exercise. Though kinda surprised by the random timing, Desmond listens as Cynthia insists on how important it is to get their stats buffed with a warm-up before their moonlit stroll. Cynthia leads him to her favorite spot, a hill with a killer view of the gorgeous city of Starlit. As they sit together under the crescent moon, Cynthia apologizes for dragging him into such a high-risk quest. Desmond quickly tries to shut that down, telling her there's nothing to be sorry for. She thinks back to when they met again, convinced it was fate after hearing he got kicked from a guild that was too blind to see his true potential. She confesses that after she left home, she always dreamed of going dungeon crawling with him one day. The fact that they actually did meet again was like a plot twist she never saw coming. Desmond remembers that moment fondly, stoked that Cynthia still remembered their childhood promise. He recalls the dream they shared as kids, a promise to one day conquer an S-rank dungeon together. Blushing, Desmond admits to himself he thought he was the only one who still had that promise in his quest log. She turns to him, her eyes lighting up when she realizes he hadn't forgotten either. Of course, he replies with a warm, gentle smile. Her expression then sets with renewed resolve. He confesses that chasing their shared dream was the real reason he started his adventurer grind, pushing him to level up so he could one day match her power. Cynthia listens intently, as a faint blush coloring her cheeks as she gets ready to add something. Totally flustered, Desmond lets it slip that he's always admired her, ever since they were just low-level kids. Her reaction leaves him totally stunned, and he panics, trying to backpedal on what admired meant. Waving his hands like a total spaz, he stammers that he meant he admires her as a person. You know, her whole vibe. Cynthia just smiles, genuinely happy, and touched to know he saw her that way. Her smile fades, replaced by a look of pure resolve. She can't just be some S-tier prodigy he admires from the sidelines. He just stares at her, completely lost by her sudden shift in aura. She drops a bombshell. As party members gunning for S-rank dungeons, she'll be the vanguard, his sword, and she needs him to be her rear guard. She locks eyes with him, her determination off the charts and an affection she can no longer hide. She wants him to be someone who can drop a serious buff, a true comrade on her quest. Finally, the gears in his head click into place, realizing she wants them to clear these dungeons as equals, a real power duo. With a confident grin, he promises her he'll absolutely level up to become that person for her. She flashes a warm smile back, sealing their pact to raid an S-rank dungeon together. Maybe, she hints, as a two-person party. Desmond, ever the loyal squad leader, quickly adds that he'd be stoked if the whole crew came along, which makes Cynthia laugh, who comments that's so typically him. The chat drifts to the future, knowing that tomorrow's successful quest will lead them to their next big raid, the Grand Naval. As the wind blows, Cynthia looks at him with a soft smile and tells him he'd better not get himself killed. He grins back and tells her right back at ya. They just sit there in a comfortable silence, sharing a moment of peace before the absolute grind that awaits them. On the grass between them, their hands rest just inches apart, a silent testament to their growing bond. A montage of recruitment and guild banners flashes across the screen. In the bustling courtyard of a castle, a massive number of adventurers and their mounts are gathering for the upcoming raid. Cynthia, decked out in her white paladin armor, has a quick, hushed chat with a hooded Desmond before they split up. Desmond falls in with Zex's intimidating crew, the white-haired dude, and some seriously buff, grinning guy. Other high-ranking players are also gathering, including a blindfolded woman and an elf who looks like he's got maxed-out perception stats. More elite adventurers show up, including a guy in glasses and a knight in full plate mail, surrounded by hunters radiating an insane amount of mana. A seriously intimidated Desmond wonders if he even has the stats to be here. Two nearby adventurers start sizing Desmond up, openly mocking his scrawny build and trashing his presumed stats. From the grand castle gate, a commanding voice orders everyone to form ranks. A woman with long, silver hair addresses the massive party, formally welcoming the chosen heroes. Full of passion, the silver-haired woman praises them for their achievements, stressing the importance of recovering the keys and, above all, making it back alive. She raises a fist, and the adventurers roar in response, their morale stat maxed out. A huge company of adventurers rides out from the castle, officially kicking off their perilous quest. As the party passes, Ren, Dorothy, and Garand pop out from their hiding spot in the bushes. Ren confirms they're going to tail the main force. As Dorothy frets over Desmond, she reflects that his true potential is being nerfed by party members who don't trust his unique magic. Dorothy remembers that the same deal other players rejecting her enchantment magic was what got her kicked out of her own guild. Dorothy warns Ren to be careful, but Ren just grins, promising they'll bounce at the first sign of a party wipe. The expedition force moves like a small, determined army across a vast, beautiful green landscape. Riding together through the fields, Desmond and Zex are riding point for their section of the party. Zex starts laying into Desmond, shocked that he actually showed up and telling him he should have stayed back at the academy. With an intense glare, Zex reads him the riot act. Once they're in the dungeon, Desmond's job is to stay behind him and not pull aggro. Zex explains that since Cynthia asked him to protect Desmond, he can't afford to let him even get a scratch. The other members of Zex's squad ride close by. Listening to the conversation, Desmond tightens his grip on the reins and states flatly that Zex's protection won't be necessary. Desmond boldly declares his intention to fight shoulder to shoulder with Zex as a full-fledged member of the party. Zex just gives Desmond a cold look, a nasty side-eye, totally unimpressed. But Desmond meets his gaze with unshakable determination. Desmond's resolve is fueled by his two main quests: complete the mission, and finally be worthy of fighting in Cynthia's party. Zex seems to back down a little, admitting that at least the kid's got the spirit of a true adventurer. A flicker of hope crosses Desmond's face as he wonders if Zex is finally acknowledging his potential. But then Zex's expression darkens as he offers some chilling advice, telling him about some other cocky hotshot who got himself permanently wiped because of overconfidence. He lays down the law, declaring Desmond's place isn't on the vanguard, but in the rearguard, like a good little support mage. Desmond is just stunned, completely speechless after Zex's brutal shutdown. The mood shifts instantly as it starts to rain, adding some dramatic flair to their trek. The party takes cover from the downpour under a massive rock overhang. Their quest continues, leading them through snowy mountain passes that felt like a permanent debuff zone. Later on, Zex's party members are chilling and regenerating their mana around a crackling campfire. A heavy boot stomps onto the ground, signaling the end of their long journey. Desmond looks up, completely floored, realizing they've reached the mausoleum of the Underworld King, which was giving off a seriously terrifying aura. The party halts before a colossal, demonic statue, and Desmond got a seriously bad vibe, thinking a mausoleum is basically just a fancy tomb. Staring at the statue's stone-cold mug, he wondered if he was looking at the dungeon's final boss. Glancing at his party, Desmond felt the pressure of going into an A+ rank dungeon totally blind, with zero intel on the mobs or traps. Stealing his core, Desmond psyches himself up, ready to boost his perception stat, while Zex clenches his fist and orders the party to roll out. A mana torch flares to life, blasting a brilliant light against the oppressive, all-consuming darkness. Led by Zex with the torch, the five-man party crept into the mausoleum's dark, checkered hall, trying not to pull aggro. One of the party members, totally sketched out, muttered about how crazy dark it was. Suddenly, a blood-curdling cry for help echoed from the shadows, catching even Zex off guard. Two noob adventurers sprinted past them in a full-blown panic, chased by some terrifying shadow mobs with glowing green eyes. As a whole horde of nasty zombies started to swarm them, a tense Zex yelled at Desmond to start casting his enhancement buffs, like, right now. Zex grabbed Desmond by the collar, his grip screaming urgency. Oof. Zex shoved Desmond backward, angrily reminding him his place was in the backline, while casually one-shotting a zombie and effortlessly clearing another B-rank undead. Zex commented that for all its hype, the dungeon seemed like a total cakewalk. Other elite-tier adventurers waited in the chamber, looking dead serious and completely zoned in. Flaring with a powerful aura, Zex rallied the troops with a booming command. Charge! Time to farm these undead for drops. As a marksman took aim, Desmond started casting some support enchantments for the team. Zex snatched his arm, telling him straight up he didn't need his garbage-tier buffs. Desmond protested that the mobs were B-rank, but Zex shot down his concern with an ice-cold stare, like it was a stupid question. Standing on a pile of defeated zombies, Zex proudly declared, "We're the elite members of the glorious 2nd Brigade." Desmond could only stare, totally shook, muttering, "That's insane." Their power levels were completely off the charts. It hit him that this elite squad, hand-picked by Cynthia and Larapim, was shredding B-rank monsters like they were level 1 trash mobs. Whoa. Desmond gasped when he saw the two adventurers from before, now slumped against a wall and totally wrecked. Rushing to their side, Desmond asked to see an arm, but Zex watched with major disapproval as the injured guy asked what he was doing. One of Desmond's party members coldly remarked that they were just dead weight who could slow down the dungeon clear again. Zex sternly ordered Desmond to leave the wounded alone. Desmond tried to argue, but Zex cut him off, reminding him their main quest was to secure the boss key. Turning his back, Zex declared that if Desmond insisted, he could just stay behind by himself, freeing them from the burden of having to protect him. Desmond looked down, completely crushed by Zex's cold, pragmatic decision. A guy with glasses from the party put a reassuring hand on his shoulder and called out to him. He told Desmond not to sweat it and to just keep moving, thinking to himself that ditching the wounded was a seriously bad look, even if the key was their main objective. Kneeling before the injured adventurers, Desmond gave them a sincere apology. He pulled a green potion from his inventory and offered it for their recovery. A green light enveloped the wounded as Desmond cast a vitality enhancement spell on them. With his task complete, Desmond quickly turned and booked it to rejoin his party. Hidden just around a corner, Ren, Dorothy, and Garand watched with concerned expressions as he left. The party's tank let out a savage war cry, and his body began to flare with a powerful aura. With the party back together, Zex leads the dungeon crawl deeper, torch held high. The jacked-up warrior one-shots two zombies with a single, massive cleave of his greatsword. The party finally reaches a massive, ornate door at the end of the hall. Totally looks like a boss room, and Zex steps up to it. With a groan that shakes the dungeon's very foundations, Zex shoves the heavy stone doors wide open. Inside, the party is stunned silent by a massive, levitating blue crystal, prompting Desmond to blurt out, "What in the world is that thing?" Peeking out from cover, Ren yells, "Whoa, look at the size of that artifact," earning a sharp shh from Garand. Zex wonders if this is just a dead end, the end of the quest line. But then he spots glowing blue mana runes spreading across the floor from the crystal. A veiled woman in a black dress materializes from the light, welcoming them and introducing herself as Sarah, their guide. While the rest of the party is totally stunned, Zex keeps his cool, just wondering what dimension she popped out of. Desmond, his brain still buffering from her sudden appearance, just repeats her title with a blank look. "A guide?" Ren immediately jumps in, convinced she's a ghost, but a thoughtful Dorothy corrects her, suggesting she's more like a spirit. Sarah just smiles with this serene calm, wrapped in a soft, ethereal aura. She explains that her purpose is to guide visitors, and that she hopes her humble power will be of some help. Sarah instructs them to touch the crystal to ascend to the middle floor, where the Underworld King guards the key to the Grand Navel. He will reveal the secret to your victory. The Underworld King values the bonds of a party, and proving the strength of your unity will guarantee success in this raid. Desmond, just to be sure, asks, "So, you're saying we just gotta use teamwork to clear the dungeon? Is that the gimmick?" With a knowing little smile, Sarah confirms that's exactly what she means. She offers one last piece of advice, telling them softly to treasure their comrades. Zex stares ahead, a thoughtful expression on his face as he processes her words. Desmond just thinks teamwork is, like, adventuring 101. But he gets a feeling there's a deeper meaning to her message. His eyes go wide as he wonders if there's more to her advice than meets the eye. Deciding they've wasted enough time, Zex steps forward, declaring they can't just stand around here. As Sarah watches, Zex leads the party to the crystal, ready to proceed to the next stage. He reaches out, placing his gloved palm firmly against the surface of the massive artifact. As the crystal begins to glow with a blinding intensity, Sarah wishes them a safe journey. Then bam, the light from the artifact just erupts, trapping the surprised adventurers inside a brilliant blue teleportation circle. As she's being transported, Dorothy smiles, thinking about seeing someone again soon. Her thoughts briefly flash to an old man with white hair. The teleportation spell catches Desmond and his companions completely off guard, while Ren, Dorothy, and Garand are just as stunned to find themselves caught in the same light. After hurtling through a vortex of light at breakneck speed, the adventurers arrive at their destination, the middle floor of the Underworld King's mausoleum. Ugh, Desmond groans, finding himself alone, sitting on the cold, hard floor of a seriously creepy, dark chamber. Glancing around at the unfamiliar surroundings, he asks, totally bewildered, "Where am I?" When he realizes he's by himself, Desmond starts to panic, yelling out for his teammates. Then the horrible truth hits him like a ton of bricks. The teleportation spell must have scattered the entire party.